I've worked the night shift at the county's 911 dispatch center for almost 6 years. Most people think it's just answering calls and sending help. They don't realize what it does to your head, hearing people at their worst, begging through static and sirens. The silence between calls is worse. It's too quiet. It makes you start listening for things that aren't there. That night started like any other. It was raining hard. Thick sheets that made the windows hum. The kind of storm that eats radio signals and turns the world into a gray blur. My partner, Elise, had called in sick, so it was just me. One dispatcher, one empty room, and a wall of flickering monitors showing blank maps. The lights buzzed above me, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and old electronics. It was 2:43 a.m. when the call came in. The ringtone we use isn't loud, but in that silence, it cuts like a knife. I pressed the headset button. 911, what's your emergency? Static. I waited, adjusting the volume. The line hissed like a low fire. Then, faintly, I heard something, a voice. A man's voice. Muffled, strained, and distant, like he was calling from underwater. Help, please. I sat up straight. Sir, I can barely hear you. Can you repeat that? Nothing. Just more static, crackling, and popping. Sir, if you can hear me, I need you to say your location. Can you tell me where you are? There was a long pause. Then I heard it, faint crying. A woman. Her voice sounded far away, echoing through the line. It wasn't the kind of crying you hear after a car crash or a fight. It was different, panicked but hopeless, like she already knew no one could help her. I leaned closer to the mic. Ma'am, can you hear me? Are you hurt? The static rose again, louder this time, filling my ears with shrill whine. I flinched and pulled the headset slightly away. Through the noise, the woman's voice bled in again. Just 3 words, soft, broken, like a whisper right beside me. Don't let him. Then silence. I stared at the console. The line was still active, but no sound. I checked the trace system. It couldn't get a location. The call showed as unknown origin. That happens sometimes with bad reception, but not like this. The signal wasn't bouncing off towers. It wasn't even in the system. It was just there, hanging. I tried again. Hello? Can you still hear me? For a moment, I thought I heard breathing. Heavy, uneven, like someone trying to stay quiet. Then a click. The call ended. I sat there, listening to the dial tone until it stopped. Then I ran the Call Idaho again. Nothing. No number, no tower, no record. It was as if it never existed. I made a note in the log anyway. Untraceable 911 call. Possible domestic disturbance. Audio interference. And played back the recording. I expected the same static. But what I heard made my stomach twist. On playback, the static wasn't the same. It wasn't random. It was rhythmic. Almost like a pulse. Faint beats under the noise. Steady in time. Like a heart monitor buried in snow. And the voice, the woman's voice, wasn't crying anymore. It was humming. Softly. Slowly. The same 2 notes. Over and over. That's when I stopped the recording. It's not unusual for people to call and say things that don't make sense. Sometimes they're drunk or scared or confused. But something about that humming, it felt deliberate, like it was meant for me to hear. The next few hours were quiet. Too quiet. I kept the headset off for a while, pretending to do paperwork just to drown out the silence. Every so often, I thought I heard that same faint hum coming from somewhere behind me. Under the lights, under the rain. I told myself it was just the HVAC system, or my nerves. At 4:12 a.m., another call came through. Unknown number. No caller ID. My stomach dropped. I took a deep breath and answered. 911, what's your emergency? This time, there was no static. Just breathing. Slow, measured. Inhale. Exhale. Sir? Ma'am? You've reached emergency services. Can you tell me what's happening? No response. The breathing grew louder, closer, until it sounded like someone standing right next to my ear. I turned instinctively, but the room was empty. Just the red light from the monitors washing over the walls. Hello, I said again, my voice cracking. If you're in danger, say something. The breathing stopped. Then, in a low whisper, almost too soft to catch, a voice said my name. Caleb. I froze. I hadn't given my name. Dispatchers never do. Who is this? I whispered. Silence. Then the faint sound of that humming again, those same two notes. But this time, it wasn't from the headset. It was from the monitor in front of me. The map screen had gone black, and across the center, a faint white line moved up and down, perfectly in sync with the hum, like an old heartbeat monitor. I ripped off the headset and pushed back from the desk, the chair squeaking loudly against the floor. My pulse hammered in my ears. After a few seconds, the line went dead. The monitor blinked back to normal. The call disappeared from the system again. I tried to tell myself it was a glitch, a feedback loop, anything that made sense. But as I sat there, staring at that blank map, something clicked in my memory. A few years back, there had been a house fire on the outskirts of town. Whole place burned down. The family inside didn't make it. A man, a woman, and their little girl. It was one of my first big calls as a dispatcher. I was the one who took it. The woman had been trapped upstairs. She called 911. Her voice had come through broken, lost and static. The last thing she said before the line died was, "Don't let him." The same words, the same tone, the same storm outside. My hands were shaking now. I pulled up the old incident logs, scrolling through the archives, and there it was, March 19th, 2019. House fire. Female caller, Amanda Reeves. I clicked the attached audio file. Static, screaming, a faint humming underneath. I stopped it halfway through. I couldn't keep listening. I sat back, rubbing my eyes. The storm outside was easing up, and the horizon was starting to lighten with early dawn. For a moment, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, stress, anything. Then the dispatch line rang one last time. No caller ID, no origin. My throat went dry. I answered anyway. 911, but this time there was no voice. Just that same hum, low, steady, pulsing softly through the headset. And beneath it, barely audible, a whisper I'll never forget. He's still here. The line went dead. The monitors flickered once. Then everything went black. I didn't go home after that night. I told the morning shift supervisor I was staying to finish paperwork. But really, I just couldn't bring myself to leave. The rain had stopped, and the world outside looked washed out and hollow, like a photograph that had lost its color. The call kept replaying in my head. That voice, that whisper, the way it said, "He's still here." I knew I should have just logged it and moved on, but I couldn't. Dispatchers are trained to trust the system. Every call, every signal, every sound leaves a trace. But this one hadn't. No timestamp, no source. It wasn't supposed to exist. So I stayed. The office was empty now, the lights humming overhead, and the coffee in my cup had gone cold. The only sound was the low of the servers behind the glass wall, rows of blinking blue lights, like tiny eyes watching me work. I logged into the archives again, scrolling through old recordings from the last few nights. Maybe the system had glitched. Maybe the trace just hadn't processed right. I told myself that over and over, but deep down, I think I already knew something was off. The recordings were all listed by date, time, and call Idaho. I clicked on the most recent batch. Each call opened with the same thing. My voice, 911, what's your emergency? Normal, calm, professional. But halfway through one file, something caught my attention. The caller was sobbing, saying someone was inside her house, whispering through the vents. I remember that call, or I thought I did. But then near the end, the woman said, "He's calling again." He says your name. And in the background, faint but clear, someone whispered, "Caleb." My name. I froze. I scrubbed the audio back and played it again. The same whisper, the same tone. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the woman had heard the dispatcher's name from another call. Maybe she'd seen it in a report. But something about the voice, the exact way it said my name, it wasn't hers. It was male. Familiar. Somehow, I moved to the next file. Different date, different caller. A man this time, screaming that he couldn't find his daughter. The line was filled with static again, that same rhythmic pulse under the noise. But this time, when I played it back, I heard something new. A faint echo beneath my own voice, like a delay, like someone else was saying the same words at the same time as me. I turned up the volume and listened closely. The echo was half a second late, my own voice overlapping itself. 911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency? The second one was quieter, breathier, but it was me. I checked the timestamp. The call was logged at 3:17 a.m. That was the same time the static call came in, the one with the woman's voice. My pulse started to race. I dug deeper, opening random files at different dates. And in every one, every single one, there it was, a faint trace, my own voice, repeating the same line. Sometimes delayed, sometimes distorted. It didn't make sense. These were all different shifts, different calls, months apart. I couldn't have answered them all. And yet it was me. The same tone, the same inflection, the same small sigh I do before speaking. My throat felt dry. I looked at the wall clock. 5:22 a.m. The building should have been empty by now. But I thought I heard something. A soft creak in the hallway. Slow footsteps. I told myself it was a janitor. The floor expands and contracts when the temperature changes. You start to notice those things when you've spent too many nights alone. Still, I locked the control room door. Back on the screen, I pulled up an older folder from March 2019, the fire case. Amanda Reeves, the one I thought I'd buried years ago. I clicked the audio file and listened. 911, what's your emergency? My voice, but that wasn't right. I didn't sound like that back then. My tone was different, younger, sharper. This one sounded older, tired, like me now. Static followed, then the woman's broken words. Don't let him. And over that, faintly, I heard it again, the hum, those same two notes. But this time, the hum wasn't the background. It was layered over my voice, like someone had taken a recording and replaced parts of it, overlapping, blending, weaving something else into the sound. I leaned closer to the monitor. The waveform on screen flickered, then glitched. For a second, it looked like the pattern of the hum shifted into something else. A shape, a jagged line that almost looked like a face. I blinked and it was gone. My head started to ache. My eyes burned from staring too long at the monitor. I told myself I needed sleep. I needed to get out of that room. But when I stood up, I heard it, faintly behind the wall. The same hum. Two notes, low and soft. I froze, listening. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from the hallway, the one that led to the old record room, the one no one used anymore. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, but I moved anyway. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted proof that I wasn't losing it. Maybe I just couldn't stand not knowing. The hallway lights flickered as I walked. The air was colder here, damp, like the smell of wet paper and dust. The hum grew louder with every step. When I reached the end of the hall, I saw the door to the record room slightly open. A pale light glowed from inside. I pushed it gently. It creaked, the sound almost too loud in the stillness. The old filing cabinets lined the walls, filled with boxes of archived tapes. The hum was louder now, coming from one of the playback stations in the corner. The small screen was on, even though the power light was off. The tape label read, March 19, 2019, Fire Dispatch. The same case. The same night. I pressed play. The tape clicked and I heard static. Then my voice again. 911, what's your emergency? Then a woman's scream, distant, fading. Then silence. I was about to stop it when I heard a sound that made my whole body go cold. The voice on the tape spoke again. Not the woman's voice. Mine. But this time, it wasn't the dispatcher tone. It was quiet, shaky, and terrified. He's behind me. I froze. My breath caught. I stared at the speaker, waiting for more. But the tape just clicked and went quiet again. I rewound it and played it back. Same thing. Same words. Same trembling fear. I checked the recording list again. There was no note of that segment anywhere. It shouldn't exist. The hum had stopped now. The air in the room felt heavy, thick, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. I turned to leave, but as I stepped into the hallway, I heard something behind me. A faint click, like a phone line reconnecting. Then, from the speakers back inside the record room, I heard my own voice again. 911, what's your emergency? I didn't go back in. I just stood there, listening, as my voice kept repeating the same line, over and over, slowly distorting until it didn't sound like me anymore. The last thing it said before the tape cut off was quiet, barely audible. Don't let him call again. Then silence. When I finally made it back to the main room, the monitors were off. All of them. The servers, the lights, everything. The only glow came from the dispatch console, where a single red light blinked. Incoming call. The number read, unknown. I couldn't move. For a long moment, I just stared at that blinking light, the hum of the building fading into the background. I don't even remember deciding to answer. My hand just moved on its own. I picked up the line. 911, I whispered. And on the other end, my voice answered back. 911, what's your emergency? I didn't go back to work for 3 days after that night. I told my supervisor I had a migraine, but the truth is, I couldn't even look at a phone without feeling sick. Every time I heard a ringtone, even from the TV, my chest tightened, like something was waiting for me to pick up. But on the fourth night, I went back. I had to. That's the thing about the night shift. It doesn't wait for you. Emergencies happen whether you're ready or not. The room felt smaller than before. The air was colder. My reflection in the glass wall looked pale, exhausted, and older than I remembered. I told myself I'd keep things simple. Just take routine calls, log them, and go home. No looking at old recordings. No digging into things I couldn't explain. I lasted maybe an hour before the call came in. The headset beeped. The console light blinked red. Unknown number. No caller ID. My throat went dry. I almost didn't answer, but my hand moved on its own. 911, what's your emergency? For a second, there was nothing. Then a familiar hum. 2 soft, low notes, pulsing through the static. I froze. Then came the voice. Calm. Slow. Too calm. You came back. It was a man's voice, quiet but close, like he was speaking right into the mic. I didn't recognize it, but it carried something that made my stomach turn. A kind of weight, like he already knew how I'd react. Who is this? I said, this line is for emergencies only. You shouldn't have left, he said. They don't like when you leave. I felt my hand shaking on the desk. Who are you talking about? He laughed softly. It wasn't a normal laugh. It sounded restrained, like someone trying not to choke. Then he said something that made the hair rise on the back of my neck. You've been sleeping on the couch. My heart stopped for a second. How do you know that? He didn't answer. I swallowed hard. If this is a prank. He interrupted me. You leave the TV on at night because you can't stand the quiet, but you mute it halfway through, don't you? You do that right before you start to fall asleep, and you stare at the window, even though you live on the 3rd floor. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe right. That was true. Every word of it. Who are you? I whispered. He chuckled again, a sound that didn't belong on any phone line. You tell me. The static started to build, louder, like a storm pushing through the line. I could hear faint whispers underneath it. Dozens of them, all saying something I couldn't quite make out. Then, through it all, came that same humming again, steady and low, vibrating in my jaw. I pulled the headset off and stared at it like it might come alive. The call was still connected. The red light blinked slower now, almost in rhythm with the hum. Then, just before it went dead, the man spoke one more time. Check the log, Caleb. And the line clicked off. For a moment, I just sat there, frozen. My pulse felt wrong, too fast, too uneven. I didn't want to check the log, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened the system record. The call was there, time-stamped, but the caller's number wasn't unknown this time. It wasn't blank either. It was mine. My personal number, the one I kept in my locker, turned off inside my bag. I got up so fast the chair toppled over. I ran to my locker, unlocked it, and pulled out my phone. The screen was black. No missed calls. No messages. But when I pressed the power button, it vibrated once and lit up. One notification. One new voicemail. From unknown. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped it. I pressed play. Static filled the speaker. Then, faintly, I heard myself. My own voice whispering, "Don't let him call again." The same word from the tape. The phone slipped out of my hand and hit the floor. The screen cracked. I didn't pick it up. I just backed away, staring at it like it was something alive. That's when I heard it again, the low hum, not from the headset this time, from somewhere down the hall. I turned toward the sound. The hallway lights flickered, and for a second, I thought I saw a movement, a shadow, someone standing just at the edge of the light, too far to make out. I blinked and it was gone. The hum stopped. The room felt wrong after that, off balance. I couldn't focus on the monitors anymore. Every noise sounded too sharp. The clicking of the keyboard, the low hiss of the air vents, the distant creak of pipes. It all blended into a kind of whispering static. I thought about leaving, just walking out. But then I remembered the call, the voice telling me I shouldn't have left. They don't like when you leave. Who was they? I sat back down and forced myself to breathe. The monitors were still flickering slightly, like the power was struggling. I minimized the dispatch software and opened the internal server logs, the ones only tech support usually checks. There was again, a file added only a few minutes ago. Echo_3_19. The date of the fire. My mouse hovered over it. I didn't want to open it, but I had to know. I clicked. The file started with silence. Then my voice, calm, professional. 911, what's your emergency? Then a man's voice, the same one from the call. You came back. I stopped breathing. That call had just happened. How could it already be in the system? And then, layered underneath both voices, I heard something else. Faint, a third voice, whispering numbers. My address, my full address. I stopped the playback, so fast the speakers popped. My vision was blurring, like the room was tilting sideways. I tried to steady myself, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. That's when my desk phone rang again. 3 short rings. No caller ID. I didn't want to answer. Every instinct in me screamed not to, but the sound burrowed into my head, louder and louder, until I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up, before I could say anything. The voice said, "You shouldn't keep the window open tonight." I froze. "What window?" "The one by your couch," he said softly. "The one you forgot to lock before you came in." I turned toward the security feed on the monitor. The camera outside the dispatch building showed the dark parking lot, empty except for my car. Then, for a brief second, a shape moved past the frame, just a blur, too fast to see clearly. The voice kept talking. You've been hearing it for days. The hum, the static, that's not from the lines. That's him trying to talk through. Who is he? I whispered, but the voice didn't answer. The static grew again, drowning him out, until all I could hear was breathing, slow, deep, in sync with mine. Then, like before, he spoke one last time. "He's been in the hallway since you got back." I dropped the headset. It hit the desk and swung, thudding softly against the side of the console. I turned toward the glass wall that looked into the hallway. It was dark now, too dark. The light that usually stayed on all night had gone out. I thought I saw a movement again, faint and slow, like someone walking just beyond the reflection. My own face looked pale against the glass, eyes wide, but behind that reflection, there was something else. A shape, tall, still, standing where the light used to be. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then the dispatch console flickered again, every monitor flashing white for half a second. When they came back, every screen showed the same thing. A list of call logs, all from unknown, all labeled with my name. The most recent one read, "Active call, 911 operator. Caleb, status, listening." The headset on the desk crackled. even though I wasn't touching it. And through the static, the man's voice returned, soft, almost kind. "Now you're the one on the line." The lights went out. I didn't remember falling asleep. When I opened my eyes, the dispatch room was dark. The monitors glowed a faint blue, casting long shadows across the desks. My mouth was dry, and the taste of metal lingered on my tongue. I must have dozed off in the chair, but it didn't feel like sleep. It felt like I'd been turned off. The hum was the first thing I noticed. It wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. It was inside the room, inside the walls. A deep, steady vibration that made the air feel thick. I stood up slowly, every sound too loud in the quiet. The clock on the wall wasn't moving. The second hand was frozen at 3:11 a.m., and the phone line lights, all of them, were blinking red, every single one. I should have called maintenance. I should have reported it, logged it, done anything that made sense. But instead, I reached for the headset. My hands were trembling, so hard it took me 2 tries to put it on. 911. I whispered, "What's your emergency?" Static. Then, faintly, a sound beneath it, breathing. Slow, ragged breathing. My pulse jumped. Who is this? No response. Just breathing. I swallowed hard. "If you need help, I need you to talk to me. What's your location?" For a few seconds, nothing. Then, quietly, like someone leaning close to the mic, I heard, "You already know." I froze. The voice was calm, male, but warped, like it was being played through an old tape machine. I didn't recognize it at first, but then I did. It was my voice. The same tone, the same rhythm. I took the headset off and stared at it like it was a snake. But the breathing didn't stop. I could still hear it, even with the headset lying on the desk. The sound filled the room, like the speakers themselves were alive. Then, one by one, the red lights on the console started going dark. The lines were disconnecting. Click, 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 each one fading into silence until only a single red light remained. Line 12. I hesitated, then reached out and pressed it. The static was softer this time, almost like wind. Then, through it, I heard a faint hum. 2 notes, familiar, and beneath it, the voice whispered again. "You left the window open." My blood ran cold. That same phrase. From the last call, from the voice that knew too much. I turned to look at the glass wall behind me. Through the faint reflection, I could see the hallway beyond, dark and empty. The light at the far end flickered. Just once. I backed away, clutching the headset like it might protect me. "What do you want?" I said. The voice didn't answer at first, just breathing. Then quietly, "I wanted you to hear it." "Hear what?" A low hum rose again, steady and rhythmic. It sounded different now, closer, not through the headset, not through the speakers. It was vibrating through the floor, through the desk, through my bones. I looked down, and the console lights began to blink again. Not red this time. White, flashing in a slow, pulsing pattern. I realized it wasn't random. It was forming a message. DONTLAGAIN. My stomach dropped. Before I could move, the final line on the console, the one still connected, started crackling louder. The static deepened into a distorted roar, almost like 1,000 overlapping voices. Then, through it all, I heard my name. Caleb. Soft at first. Then again, louder. Caleb. It didn't sound like the man's voice anymore. It didn't sound like mine either. It sounded broken, layered, like multiple people whispering my name all at once. I tried to hang up, but the console wouldn't respond. The system froze. The static grew louder, pressing against my ears until I thought I'd go deaf. Then, in a burst of sound, the call cut off. All the lights went out. The only thing left was the emergency glow from the hallway. I stood in that blue half-dark, shaking, listening to the sudden silence that followed. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then I heard it, a faint, dragging sound outside the glass wall. Slow, uneven. I turned toward it. The hallway light flickered again, and for half a second I saw something. Just the outline of a figure standing at the far end, still, watching. I blinked, and it was gone. The hum returned. Softer now, almost like a lullaby. It was coming from the intercom speaker above me. I stepped back, staring up at it. The static pulsed once. Then a new sound came through, a whisper. Pick up the line. I shook my head. No, I said out loud. My voice cracked. No, I'm done. I'm not. The console beeped. A single light turned back on. Line 12. The red glow filled the room like a heartbeat. I told myself not to touch it, to walk out the door, drive home, and never come back. But my body moved before my mind did. My hand lifted the receiver. I didn't even say hello. The static was gone. There was only silence for a moment, then a whisper right against my ear. I see you. I slammed the receiver down so hard the plastic cracked. The light didn't turn off. Then, without warning, every monitor in the room flickered to life. Dozens of screens, all showing the same feed, grainy black and white security footage, different angles of the dispatch center, the desks, the hallways, the parking lot outside. And on every single screen, there I was, sitting at the console, still, head tilted slightly, as if listening to something no one else could hear. But I wasn't moving. I stepped back, my heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. I looked from the screens to my own reflection in the glass. For a second, I thought I saw the same tilt in my head, the same stillness. Then the lights and the footage started to dim. One by one, the cameras went dark, until only the feet of the hallway remained. The same hallway behind me. On the screen, something began to move toward the camera. Slow, deliberate steps. Too dark to make out the face. But the shape, it was human. The static around the figure shimmered, like heat. My headset crackled again, even though I wasn't touching it. A soft whisper came through, barely audible. Turn around. I froze. On the monitor, the figure was almost at the end of the hallway now, just a few feet from the glass. My breathing turned shallow. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to confirm what I already felt. The presence behind me, the warmth of breath that wasn't mine. The whisper came again, right in my ear this time. Caleb. I turned. Nothing. The hallway was empty, silent. The light at the far end flickered once more and went out completely, plunging everything beyond the glass into darkness. When I looked back at the monitors, they were black, every single one. Then, across all the screens at once, white text appeared, line cut, and just below it, my name. I don't remember what happened after that. Maybe I blacked out. Maybe I ran. The next thing I remember is sitting in my car outside, engine off, the dawn light just starting to rise. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message. No number. It said, 911, what's your emergency? I didn't answer. I just threw the phone onto the passenger seat and started the engine. But as I pulled away from the building, I heard something faint through the radio static. Too low, familiar notes. The hum. It followed me all the way home. That night, I unplugged every phone in my apartment, every cable, every wire. I told myself it was over, that I'd never hear that voice again. But around midnight, I woke to a faint sound coming from the living room, a single phone ringing. When I didn't own, I still remember that night. It started like any other shift, quiet, slow, almost boring. The kind of night where the hum of the monitors feels louder than your own thoughts. It was just past midnight, and the air inside the dispatch center felt heavy, stale. I remember the clock ticking louder than usual, and how I kept glancing at it even though time never seemed to move. We handle a lot of strange calls on night shifts. Most are false alarms. Someone hearing raccoons in the attic. Drunk neighbors fighting. Kids prank calling for a laugh. You learn to tell what's real and what isn't. You can feel the difference in someone's voice. That's why this one stayed with me. Because the moment I heard him, I knew something was wrong. The phone rang at 12:17 a.m. I answered like I always do. 911, what's your emergency? At first, there was nothing, just static. Then a man's voice came through. Quiet, shaking, barely more than a whisper. Someone's in my house. I straightened in my chair. Sir, can you tell me your name? He hesitated. Mark. Okay, Mark, are you alone right now? He breathed out long and uneven. Yes, I live alone. Were you in the house? I asked, typing as I spoke. In my bedroom, he said. The door's locked. I can hear them downstairs. His voice cracked when he said them. Mark, I need you to stay quiet and stay where you are, okay? I'm sending officers to your address right now. I typed in the location, glancing at the map. His house was in one of those older neighborhoods on the edge of town, the kind where the streetlights don't all work. Can you describe what you heard? I asked. Footsteps, he said. They started in the hallway. I thought maybe the house was settling, but then they moved. Closer, slow, like someone was trying not to be heard. I could hear the sound of him breathing through the line. It was uneven, shallow. I'd dealt with panic before, but there was something about his silence between breaths that made my skin crawl. Do you have any weapons, Mark? I asked. No, He stopped mid-sentence. Mark, he whispered, they're on the stairs. My screen flickered. Just once. Probably nothing. Old system, fluorescent lights, whatever. But I felt a chill crawl up my neck anyway. Mark, listen to me. I said, keeping my voice steady. You need to stay calm. Help is on the way. Don't make any noise. Can you hear how many people there are? There was a pause. Then I heard it too, soft, faint, through the phone's tiny speaker. A creaking sound, with bending underweight. One step, then another. Slow, deliberate. I swallowed hard. Mark, lock yourself in. Stay quiet. Don't hang up. He didn't answer. I could hear him moving, his breathing getting closer to phone. Then a whisper. They stopped. Where? Right outside my door. The words sent a wave of cold through me. He started crying then, not loud, not broken. Just small, desperate gasps. Why are they here? He said. Why would they? I cut him off softly. It's okay. The police are less than 5 minutes away. You're doing great, Mark. Just... A knock echoed through the line. 3 slow knocks. I froze. My mouth went dry. Mark, I whispered, is that your door? He didn't answer. Mark, listen to me. Do not open that door. The silence on the line stretched so long I thought he'd dropped the call. Then I heard the faintest sound. His voice, trembling close to the receiver. They're saying my name. I sat back in my chair. My stomach turned to ice. What do you mean? I said, they're whispering it, over and over. I could barely breathe. Mark, are you sure it's not someone you know? No, he said quickly. No one knows I'm here. I just moved in a week ago. I don't even have friends here. He started whispering faster, like his words were falling apart. They know my name. How do they know my name? The knocking started again, louder this time, more forceful. Then a voice, low, distorted by the cheap microphone, but unmistakably human. Mark. It was so quiet, I almost thought I imagined it. But I didn't. I heard it again. Mark. Open the door. I stood up without realizing it. My hand was gripping the headset too tight. Mark, do not open that door, I said. The police are on their way. Stay where you are. He whispered. They sound like me. My blood ran cold. What? The voice, he said. It sounded like me. Then the line went silent. Mark. I said, Mark, can you hear me? Nothing. I checked the signal, still connected. He hadn't hung up, but there was no sound at all. No breathing. No static. Just nothing. Mark, please answer me. A faint thump echoed through the line. Then another, and then the sound of the door creaking open. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear myself think. Mark, don't. Something heavy hit the floor. Then silence again. I stood frozen for what felt like forever, listening, waiting, praying to hear him breathing. Anything. Finally, there was a sound, a faint shuffle, a dragging noise. Then, softly, almost too quiet to catch. Hello? I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Mark? Are you okay? What happened? The voice on the other end was calm now. Too calm. Everything's fine. The tone was wrong. Flat. Empty. Mark. I said again. I said everything's fine. I frowned, looking at the screen. The caller ID still showed the same number, the same address. But something inside me knew it wasn't him anymore. Mark, the officers will be there soon. I said carefully. Stay on the line with me, okay? No need, the voice said. They won't find anything. A chill went through me. What do you mean? Silence. Then a soft click. The line disconnected. I sat there staring at the dead screen. The clock above the console ticked once, then stopped. 3:11 a.m. When the officers finally radioed in, they said the house was empty. The front door was open. Lights off. No signs of forced entry. No signs of a struggle. But they found the phone still lie on the floor, receiver off the hook. And here's the part that's never left me. They said the bedroom door was locked from the inside. There was no one there. Just one thing, written on the wall in pencil, faint enough that they almost missed it. 3 words. 911 in the dark. I didn't sleep after that night. I sat in the dispatcher's parking lot until sunrise, just staring at the sky like maybe the light would make it all make sense. It didn't. It just made everything feel more unreal. They told me to go home, but I couldn't. I couldn't leave without knowing what happened to him. To Mark. I kept replaying the call in my head. Every whisper, every knock. The way the voice changed at the end. Everything's fine. That tone, that emptiness. When you work dispatch long enough, you learn to separate yourself from the voices. You have to. You learn to file them away like they never existed. But I couldn't file this one away. Something about it felt unfinished. When the morning supervisor came in, I asked him if we got any follow-up from the officers who went to the scene. He frowned at me, flipping through the overnight reports. They checked the place, he said. No signs of break-in. No body. No blood. Nothing. I just stared at him. But he was there. He called from that house. He shrugged, like it was just another unsolved weird one. Maybe he ran off before they got there. But I knew he didn't. You can hear when someone's still there. The way the phone picks up breath. The sound of space around them. Mark hadn't left that room. I asked if they traced the call. They did. It came from a landline inside the house. The same address. No redirects. No rerouting. The system even verified the signal. It was legit. Still, no one found him. By noon, the department treated it like a false report. Case closed. The report said, caller unverified. That was it. But that night, I stayed late. I shouldn't have, but I did. Something in me needed to see the log. Needed to hear it again. The system archives every 911 call. Usually, I avoid revisiting them. It's too easy to get pulled back into someone else's fear. But this time I couldn't stop myself. I loaded the recording. For a while, it was exactly as I remembered. The static, the fear, the trembling voice. But then, near the end, something was different. There was a gap. A tiny one. 2, maybe 3 seconds of silence that hadn't been there before. And in that silence, there was a faint sound. Not a word. Not even a breath. Just a whisper of something I couldn't quite catch. I turned the volume up, leaned in close. It sounded like scratching, like someone dragging their fingers slowly across the microphone. I stopped the playback, but the sound kept going. For a few seconds, I thought it was my imagination. Then I realized it wasn't coming from the computer. It was coming from the headset. I pulled it off fast, heart pounding, but the sound stopped the second I did. When I tried again, the call played normally. No scratching, just silence. I told myself it was feedback. Maybe the recording was corrupted. Maybe the system glitched. I wanted to believe that. But that feeling, that cold, sinking feeling in my chest wouldn't go away. A part of me knew something was wrong. The next day, I drove out to the address myself. Dispatchers aren't supposed to do that. We're meant to stay behind the console, keep distance. But I had to see it. It was a small one-story house on the edge of town. The kind of place that looked like no one had touched it in years. The grass was overgrown, the windows dark. The front door was half open, still hanging from a broken hinge. When I stepped out of my car, the wind was the only sound. It was quiet, too quiet. I didn't go inside right away. I stood on the porch, looking at the peeling paint, the mailbox with his name still faintly stenciled on it, Mark O'Connor. It felt strange seeing it written there, like proof that he'd actually existed. I called out his name once, even though I knew he wouldn't answer. My voice felt small against the silence. The police had cleared the place, but inside, the air felt heavy, almost damp. It smelled faintly of dust and old wood. The floor creaked with every step. His phone was still there, on the floor beside the wall socket. The cord tangled like someone had dropped it mid-call. I knelt to look at it, and my stomach turned. There were marks on the floor, thin, dark scratches that ran from the doorway to the corner of the room. They looked like something or someone had been dragged, but there was no blood, no footprints, no sign of a struggle, just those scratches. And on the wall, where the pencil writing had been, those 3 words, someone had tried to erase them. The letters were faint, smudged, but still visible. 911 in the dark. The graphite had been rubbed over and over, but not clean. Almost like someone didn't want to erase it completely, just blur it. That was when I heard it. A click from behind me. It was small, mechanical, sharp enough to echo in the empty air, like a phone picking up. I turned around. The receiver, still off the hook, had moved. It was lying flat when I came in, but now it was tilted upright, balanced just barely on the edge of the base. I stood there, frozen, staring at it. Then the dial tone started. Soft, steady, almost comforting in a way that made it worse. I backed away slowly, out of the room, down the hallway, until I was standing on the porch again. I tried to tell myself I imagined it, that I bumped something without realizing. But when I looked down at my hands, they were shaking. I didn't go back in. I couldn't. I reported it later that night, told the shift commander what I saw, but they just brushed it off, said maybe I was tired, maybe I was spooked after that first call, maybe, except that wasn't the end of it. The next evening, during my shift, something strange happened again. Around the same time as the first call, 12:17 a.m., the console beeped, but no incoming number appeared. Usually, if someone calls from a landline, the location, and ID pop up immediately. This time it was blank, just static on the screen. I hesitated, then answered, 911, what's your emergency? No response, just faint static. Hello? I tried again, and then, clear as day, someone's in my house. It was him, the exact same voice, the same tone, the same trembling. My throat went dry. Mark, no answer. The line filled with a low hum. And then a click. Call ended. I checked the system logs right away. There was no record of the call ever happening. No trace. No recording, nothing. The timestamp on my screen stayed stuck on 12:17 for almost a full minute before it corrected itself. I sat there in the glow of the monitors, staring at my reflection in the glass. My face looked pale and wrong, like I didn't recognize myself. I kept thinking about what he said that night, the way his voice changed at the end. They won't find anything. He was right. They didn't. And now, sometimes when I'm working late, I hear it again, a soft click on the line, a faint breath, then static, and right before it cuts out, just barely above a hum, I hear a whisper, my name. I wish I could tell you it stopped after that second call, that the silence stayed silent, that the static faded away, that my nights went back to usual. The drunks, the false alarms, the occasional real emergency that actually made sense. But it didn't. It got worse. At first, it was small things. Strange glitches in the system. Calls showing up with no audio or addresses that didn't exist. We get blank dispatches, frozen timestamps, phantom rings that no one else heard. Everyone blamed the old hardware. Budget cut tech, they'd say, laughing it off. But I knew better, because every single one of those phantom calls came from the same address, Mark's address. The first time it happened, I was on the night shift again, a week after the last call. It was quiet, just me, the hum of the fluorescent lights, and the steady rhythm of the clock that always seemed to lag behind real time. Then, at exactly 12:17 a.m., the console beeped. I looked at the screen, and my stomach dropped. Same address. The name field was blank. Caller unknown. I hesitated for a few seconds. Then I picked up the headset. 911, what's your emergency? The line crackled. For a moment, it was just static. Then a voice broke through, shaky and low. There's someone in my house. But it wasn't Mark. It was a woman this time. She sounded terrified. Her breath came fast and uneven. Please, I don't know what's happening. The lights keep flickering. Someone keeps knocking. My heart was pounding. Ma'am, what's your name? Rachel, she whispered. I just moved in 2 days ago. I froze. That house had been sealed. No one was supposed to be living there. Okay, Rachel, I need you to stay calm. Are you alone? Yes, I think so. Her voice trembled. I keep hearing someone in the hallway. Lock yourself in a room if you can. Don't open the door for anyone. She started to cry softly. He keeps saying my name. Who? I don't know, she said. It sounded like me. My chest went cold. Same words, same tone. I signaled the on-duty officers, told them to head to the address immediately. Then I stayed on the line with her, whispering instructions, trying to keep her focused. But halfway through the call, something strange happened. Her voice began to echo, not through the phone. Through her, it was like two versions of her were speaking at once. One faint, one just a fraction behind. Rachel. I said carefully, do you have another phone in the house? Maybe on speaker? No, she said. It's just me. And then, over the echo of her own voice, I heard a man's whisper. Faint but clear. He's not gone. Rachel, do you hear that? I asked. She didn't answer. The line filled with a deep, dragging noise, like furniture scraping across the floor. Then her voice came back, broken and distant. He's here. And then, a crash, a scream, then nothing but static. I tried calling back. No answer. When the officers got there, the house was empty again. No Rachel. No signs of struggle. No signs anyone had lived there at all. The report said the same thing as last time. Caller unverified. The power was off when they arrived. The phone line had been dead for days. But the log said the call came from inside the house. After that, it happened again. Different nights. Different people. Always around midnight. Always the same address. One was a young man. His name was Aaron. He said he'd rented the place through a listing online. Said it seemed fine at first, until he started hearing knocks on the walls at night. He thought it was the pipes until they started following him from room to room. He sounded tired more than scared, like he'd been awake for days. I tried to keep him talking while tracing the call, but halfway through, the line split again. Another voice came in, a woman's voice, and she said his name like she'd known him all her life. He froze. I could hear in the silence. Then he whispered, "That's my mother's voice." The thing is, his mother had died 2 years earlier. He told me that. The call ended abruptly. When the officers arrived, the house was empty again. His car was still in the driveway, keys still in the ignition. He was gone. No one ever saw him again. We started calling them the ghost calls. That's what the night team called them. Anyway, some joke that the house was cursed. Others blamed me, said I was attracting these calls somehow. But it wasn't me. It was the house. Every recording of those calls, Rachel's, Aaron's, the others, they all shared something impossible. If you lined them up, played them at the same time, there was a moment, just a few seconds, where all the voices overlapped perfectly. Every one of them said the same phrase. He's here. Different tones, different people, but the same timing, the same breath between words, the same fear. It didn't make sense. I tried to tell my supervisor again, but he told me to let it go, said I was too close to it. He reassigned me to day shift for a week, said maybe I needed rest, but I couldn't rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that address flashing on the screen, 12:17 a.m. Every time. I finally went digging into old property records. The address wasn't new. The house had been there for decades, older than most in that neighborhood, but something caught my attention. 5 years before Mark's call, another dispatcher logged a 911 report from the same place. Different name, same kind of story. Someone alone, hearing footsteps. Caller disappeared before units arrived. I found 3 more from before that, each spaced about 2 or 3 years apart. Each time, a new resident. Each time, a voice saying, "Someone's in my house." Each one vanished. I sat there in the archive room, staring at the screen as the pattern sank in. It wasn't random. It was repeating. That house was calling people, over and over, drawing them in. And the strangest part? Every new voice came at the same hour, 12:17 a.m. Always. No one could explain why the system still routed the calls. The phone company confirmed the line was disconnected. The address didn't even have active service anymore. But we still got them. The night after I found that out, I came home late. My apartment was quiet, lights off, the same stale hum of silence I'd grown too used to. I made tea, tried to relax. I even laughed at myself about how paranoid I'd become. Then my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something in me knew I shouldn't have answered. But I did. I brought it to my ear, said, "Hello?" At first, all I heard was static, then a low hum, and then my own voice. "There's someone in my house." The teacup slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. I didn't speak. I couldn't. On the other end, my own voice whispered again, "He's here." The line clicked dead. I sat there in the dark, shaking. When I checked the call log later, the number didn't exist. No record, no trace, just a timestamp, 12:17 a.m. I told myself I was done with it, that I'd stopped thinking about that address, those calls, the voices. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. You don't just forget something like that. You carry it. It settles in you like dust. You stop noticing it after a while, but it never really goes away. A month passed after the last incident. No new calls. No strange names. No midnight whispers. Just silence. But it wasn't the kind of silence that makes you feel safe. It was the kind that waits. Then one night, around 12:17 a.m., of course, it came again. Same sound. That soft mechanical beat from the console. Same address. Only this time, the name field wasn't blank. It said mine. I just stared at it for a long moment. My heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. It didn't make sense. I wasn't calling anyone. I was sitting right there, headset in hand, watching the number flash across the screen. The call wasn't coming in. It was going out. Somehow, the system was showing me as a caller. I remember my hand shaking as I picked up the line. I didn't say anything at first. I just listened. Static. And then, a faint sound behind it. A child humming. It was soft and uneven, like an old lullaby played on a broken radio. I almost whispered hello, but something stopped me, the kind of instinct that crawls up your spine before your mind can form words. So I stayed silent. Then the humming stopped, and a small voice, maybe 7 or 8 years old, said, "Hi." I felt cold all over. "Who is this?" I asked quietly. The voice giggled. "You know me." "No, I don't." "What's your name?" A pause. Then, softly, "You told me to stay calm." The room felt smaller somehow, like the walls were closing in. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "You said you'd help me," the child said. "You told me not to open the door." I froze. Those were my words. I'd said them to Rachel, to Aaron, to all of them. I could barely breathe. "Where are you right now?" "Here." The voice sounded like it was smiling. Then I heard it again, faint knocking in the background, slow, rhythmic. "Don't open it," I said before I could stop myself. The child giggled again, softer this time. He already did. The line filled with that scraping sound again. Furniture dragging, or maybe something heavier. I pulled off the headset, heart racing, but the sound didn't stop. It wasn't in the earpiece anymore. It was coming from the console. Every speaker in the room started playing that low hum, like the system itself was breathing. Lights flickered on and off, panels flashing red, and then everything went black. When power came back, the call was gone. But the screen was different. All the call logs, hundreds of them, had been wiped. Every one, except one. It just said, final recording. There was no date, no name, just an option to play it. I shouldn't have. God, I shouldn't have. But I did. The file started with static, then faint breathing. It sounded like it was coming from inside a small room. Someone whispered my name. Not once. Over and over. Dozens of times. Then a child's voice. That same one from before. Only this time, it wasn't humming. It was crying. It kept saying the same thing, repeating it like a chant. Please don't let him in. And then I heard my own voice again. Clear as day. Stay calm. Help is on the way. Then a loud thud. The sound of something falling. More static. And finally, silence. Just when I thought the recording was done, a small voice whispered, almost like a secret. He's here. Then, faintly, hi, dispatcher. The audio ended with a soft sound of breathing. Not a child's this time. It was deeper, closer. I replayed that recording at least 100 times, trying to convince myself it was edited, tampered with, anything logical. But every time I noticed something new, a faint echo, a heartbeat, a breath that didn't belong. The technicians looked into it, said it must have been a corrupted archive. But one of them, a younger guy, pulled me aside later and told me quietly, there's no record of any file with that name ever being created. A week later, the city finally condemned the house. They said it was unsafe. Too many strange break-ins, missing persons, structural issues. They demolished it within a few days. I watched it happen from across the street. It didn't feel like closure. It felt like a threat, because as they tore it down, I swear I heard something under all that crashing and metal and dust. A faint ringing, like a phone buried somewhere deep inside. And I could have sworn it stopped exactly at 12:17 a.m. After the demolition, the calls stopped for about 2 months. Then, out of nowhere, they started again. Different nights, different consoles, even on other shifts. Always the same timestamp. Always the same line of static. Except now, the address field just said one word. Nowhere. I tried to ignore it, but it got worse. The others started hearing my name through the headset too, randomly, during unrelated calls. At first, they thought it was a prank, some glitch with the voice system. But then one of the dispatchers, a woman named Mia, told me she'd heard a child's voice whisper to her while she was taking a completely different call. "Do you have a kid?" she asked, laughing nervously. I just shook my head. That night, when I went home, I disconnected my landline. I threw out my old cell phone too, just in case. I started sleeping with the radio on. Silence felt too loud. Then, one morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. I don't even know how to explain it. I hadn't plugged it in, hadn't charged it, hadn't even used it in weeks. But it was glowing. The old cracked screen flashing, that familiar number. My number. I answered it with shaking hands. Nothing at first. Then static. And then the same voice as before. The child. Soft, calm, almost tender. "You forgot to say goodbye." I didn't answer. I just sat there, my throat dry. The voice continued. "You said help was coming." I tried. I whispered. I really did. A pause. Then it said my name. Slowly, carefully, repeating it over and over, until it didn't sound like a name anymore. Just noise. Then, for the first time, I heard something new behind it. My own breathing. Recorded. Echoed back. And in that moment, I realized the truth. The recordings hadn't been capturing the calls. They'd been replaying them. The voices. The echoes. The overlaps. Every person who called from that address. Their last moments were looping through the system like a living thing. And now it had me, too. The next morning, the department found my workstation active again. The console lights were flashing. One new file sat in the archive folder. No one remembered recording it. No one claimed the timestamp. It was labeled simply, "Final call." When they played it, they said it started with static, then a child's voice, then a woman's, mine, saying the same thing I told all the others. "Stay calm. Help is on the way." They shut down my console after that. wiped everything, even replaced the hardware. But a few nights ago, a friend from another district called me. He said their system got a strange dispatch at exactly 12:17 a.m. The line was silent at first. Then a faint voice said, "Hi." He swore it sounded like a child. Then, at the end, the voice said something that made his blood run cold. It said my name. I've worked night shifts most of my life. You get used to the quiet after a while. The way the city hums differently after midnight. The way even your own footsteps sound hollow when the world sleeps. But the night this happened, the quiet felt wrong. It wasn't empty. It was watching. I was the only paramedic on duty at St. Andrews at night. Technically, the hospital had shut down most of its wings years ago. Half the building was boarded up, waiting for demolition, but they still used the emergency wing for transfers, and I'd been assigned there alone, just to cover calls and monitor the radios. It was one of those long nights that stretch forever, the kind where you start counting the ticks of the clock just to prove time hasn't stopped. I was halfway through a stale cup of coffee when the intercom crackled. "Dispatch to paramedic 12. We've got a report of patient distress. East Wing, room 311. I froze. The East Wing had been vacant for almost 6 years. I pressed the mic button. "Dispatch, can you repeat that?" There was a pause, then a faint hiss of static. "Room 311. The voice said again, except this time, it didn't sound like dispatch. It sounded close, like someone whispering through a paper wall. I stood up, staring down the dim hallway that led to the old section. My heart started pounding, not because I believe in ghosts or anything like that, but because the old wing still had oxygen lines and cracked wiring. If someone had broken in, it could be dangerous. So I grabbed my flashlight and radio and started walking. The deeper I went, the colder it got. The lights in the East Wing flickered like they were struggling to stay alive. The smell changed too, old disinfectant and wet plaster. Every step echoed too loud. Room numbers blurred past me. 307, 308, 309, then 310. And there it was, room 311. The door was half open. Inside I heard it, a muffled scream. It was faint but sharp, like someone shouting through water. I rushed in, expecting to see a patient or maybe a prank. But the room was empty. Just an old hospital bed, stripped bare, and an overturned floor stand covered in dust. The sound stopped the moment I stepped in. I called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" Nothing. I took a few steps closer. The air felt thick, heavy. The flashlight beam caught something on the wall. Handprints, dozens of them, smeared faintly in gray dust. They looked fresh. Then the scream came again, louder. Behind me, I spun around, light flashing across the empty hallway. No one, but I swear, I could feel breath on my neck. I stumbled backward, trying to radio in, "Dispatch! I need backup in the East Wing. Possible trespasser." B. Static. I hit the button again. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Then, through the static, a voice whispered back, "Don't let them in." It wasn't dispatch. It wasn't anyone I recognized. And it sounded like it was coming from the radio and the hallway at the same time. I started backing toward the exit, my flashlight shaking. That's when I saw the light flicker under the next door. Room 312. The bulb inside was pulsing, slow and rhythmic. With every flicker, I heard something, a faint crying sound. A woman's voice, trembling, broken. I should have left, but something about that sound hooked into me. I'd heard that kind of cry before, raw, terrified, the kind you only hear from someone in pain. I pushed open the door. The crying stopped. The room was empty, except for an old hospital chair and a heart monitor that wasn't plugged into anything. The green line on its screen flickered weakly. I stepped closer. The monitor let out a single long beep, then flatlined, but there was no power, no cables, no wires, just that single, endless tone cutting through the silence. And underneath it, something else, a whisper, so soft I thought I imagined it. It was repeating the same word, over and over. "Help, help, help." I dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor and landed on the far corner of the room, where the shadows moved. There was something there. I can't describe it. It wasn't a person, exactly. Just a shape, hunched over, its shoulders rising and falling like it was breathing. The air felt colder the longer I stared. Then I blinked, and it was gone. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the main hallway, gasping for air. My radio came back to life mid-breath, blasting a distorted voice. Paramedic 12, status? I nearly screamed from relief. I heard screaming in the East Wing, rooms 311 and 312, but there's no one here. A long pause. Then dispatch said, slowly, that can't be right. Those rooms were sealed off last year. I'm telling you, the doors were open, I said. Someone's inside. Another pause. Then dispatch said something I'll never forget. There's no power in that section. Cameras are down, but we're reading your location from inside room 311 right now. I looked around. I was standing in the main corridor, at least 30 feet away from that room. I'm not in there, I said. Check again. The line went dead, and then I heard it, that same scream again, closer this time, echoing down the hall. But it wasn't just one voice now. It was several, layered on top of each other, rising and falling in jagged bursts. It didn't sound human anymore. I turned and ran straight toward the exit doors, but they wouldn't open. The magnetic locks had engaged. I slammed my shoulder against them again and again until my skin went numb. Then, behind me, the lights started flickering one by one. From the far end of the hallway, I saw figures, pale shapes, walking slowly toward me. They didn't move like people, more like shadows cast by something I couldn't see. And with each flicker of the light, they got closer. Their mouths were open, but no sound came out, only silence. Then, all at once, they screamed, not with noise, not with breath, but inside my head. I don't remember falling. I don't remember blacking out. When I woke up, I was lying on a stretcher in the ER bay. Sunlight was bleeding through the windows. The nurse said they found me unconscious in the East Wing corridor, radio in hand. I told them what happened, but they just exchanged looks, said the power had been cut there for years. The whole section was sealed, the doors welded shut. When they went to check, there was nothing. No open doors, no footprints, no dust disturbed. But I know what I heard, what I saw, and I know it didn't end there, because later that night, when I came back to collect my things, my radio turned on by itself, a faint hiss, then a voice, distant and trembling, room 311, screaming, please help. I froze. The timestamp showed next week's date, and when the call ended, I heard something faint, buried under the static. It was my own voice, saying, stay calm, help is on the way. You ever have that feeling like the world's a little off? Like something doesn't line up, but you can't quite explain why? That's what it felt like the week after the screaming call. The official report said it was a false alarm, probably a prank or a recording loop in the old system. But I knew better, because the night after it happened, I started hearing things again. Not screams this time, just the soft hum of the hospital intercom. Even when it was unplugged, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flicker of that heart monitor in the dark, the handprints on the wall. So I did what anyone in my position would do. I started digging. I began with the patient logs. Every 911 call, every ER transfer, every discharge. It all goes through the hospital database. The system was slow, old software, green letters on a black screen, but I knew inside out. I typed in room 311. It froze for a second, then loaded something strange. Patient ID, 03-117A. Name, data corrupted. Date of admission, no discharge, no doctor, no notes, just a void. That's not supposed to happen. Every patient file has a paper trail, vitals, notes, even allergies. But this one was blank, except for one sentence at the bottom. Do not archive. Retain indefinitely. I stared at it, my pulse rising. That note wasn't standard. I'd never seen it before. Curiosity pushed me deeper. I cross-checked the patient ID against other years. That's when I saw them. Dozens of other corrupted records. Same pattern. Room numbers that didn't exist anymore. Admissions with no names, no doctors, no deaths. Just that same warning. Do not archive. It didn't make sense. The East Wing had been shut down 6 years ago. Yet the files dated back only a few months. Someone had been entering new records, using rooms that weren't supposed to exist. I printed a few of the files, thinking I'd show the supervisor the next morning. But when I looked at the printed pages, they weren't the same as what I'd seen on screen. The text was jumbled, faint black smears, overlapping lines, words missing letters, almost like the printer had coughed up the ghosts of the words instead of the words themselves. At the bottom of one page, beneath the corrupted lines, something stood out in dark ink, handwritten. It said, "You heard them too." My stomach turned. I checked the folder history. No edits, no comments, no sign anyone had added a note. But it was there, in my hands, ink still fresh. The next day, I tried to bring it up with my supervisor, Dr. Hayes. She was one of those calm, unshakable types, the kind of woman who'd seen everything. When I showed her the printout, she frowned and took it from me. "Where'd you find this?" she asked. "In the archive system." I said, "There's a bunch of them, corrupted records tied to the East Wing." She flipped through the pages, her face unreadable. Then she said quietly, "There's no archive for the East Wing." I blinked. "What?" "They purged those records after the shutdown," she said. "It was protocol. That wing's not even in our system anymore." She tore the pages in half before I could stop her. Her tone changed, sharper, colder. "If you're having trouble sleeping, maybe take a few nights off." I wanted to argue, but she was already walking away. When she reached the door, she paused and said something I'll never forget. "Don't go looking for what isn't there." Then she left. That night, I went back anyway. If there's one thing you learn working night shifts, it's that curiosity and fear live in the same place. They both keep you awake. I logged into the archive again. Except this time, the corrupted files were gone. Every one of them. Except one. The file had no name. Just a timestamp. 12:03 a.m. and an attached image. I clicked it. It was a scanned patient intake form. Black and white. Grainy like it had been faxed 100 times. Name, unknown. Sex, female. Age, 9. Room, 311. Status, ongoing. The attached photo was damaged. A hospital ID shot. The kind they take for patient records. The girl's face was faded almost completely, except for her eyes. They were wide, glassy, almost too focused, like she was staring straight through the camera, straight through me. And under the image, scribbled in faint pencil, was one line. "She won't stop screaming." My throat went dry. I tried to print it, but the machine froze halfway through. Then the screen went black. The only thing that appeared next was a blinking cursor and a new line of text that typed itself. "Do not follow her." The screen glitched, flickered white, then died completely. I didn't tell anyone after that. I knew how it would sound. Another night worker losing it from lack of sleep. But it didn't stop there, because the next morning, I found a stack of folders sitting on my desk. Old, yellowed patient files tied with hospital string. No one admitted leaving them there. Each one had that same red stamp. Retain indefinitely. Inside, every file had the same layout. Minimal information, no doctors, no diagnosis. But every single one listed the same attending paramedic. Me. And the dates? They were all from the future. Some dated next week. Some next month. And every single one had room 311 written somewhere inside. I couldn't take it anymore. I went down to the East Wing myself. I needed to see it again, to prove to myself it wasn't real. The corridor was darker than before. The lights didn't even pretend to work this time. My flashlight beam skimmed across the peeling paint, the broken tiles. And then I saw it. Room 311. Except it wasn't boarded up anymore. The door was open just a crack. Inside, it was different, cleaner, newer, like someone had been there. A bed made up with white sheets. A child's teddy bear sitting neatly on the pillow. I stood frozen, watching my breath fog in the air. Then I heard the intercom click on. Faint, broken. Paramedic 12, report to room 311. It was my voice. Exactly my voice. I took one step back. Then another, heart racing. The intercom clicked again. Patient admitted. And then, faintly, that same sound I'd hoped never to hear again. Screaming. Louder. Closer. I dropped my flashlight and ran, stumbling down the hall, not looking back. The scream followed me all the way to the stairwell, echoing in my ears and the walls in my head. When I finally burst out into the cold night air, I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I didn't look at the hospital again. A week later, I got a call from records. They'd found some misplaced documents under my employee ID. When I went to check, it was another patient file. New date, new name, but the address line said something impossible. East Wing, room 311. Status, admitted. Patient name, my name. I stared at it until the letters started to blur. At the bottom, in faint gray text, someone had added one more note. Retain indefinitely. I've worked night shift for almost 10 years now. You'd think I'd be used to the silence, the kind that feels heavy, like the air itself is waiting for something. But lately it's been different. Ever since I found those patient files, the ones that shouldn't exist, the hospital hasn't felt the same. It's like the walls are listening. At first, I thought it was paranoia, lack of sleep, guilt for digging into things I shouldn't. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized this place was watching me back. It started small. The security cameras. We only have a few running in the East Wing. Most of the others are down or looping old footage. One night, while I was filling in reports, I noticed something strange on the monitor. Camera 09, East Wing corridor. The hallway was dark, but someone was there. A shadow moved across the far end. Quick, then gone. At first, I assumed it was another worker, maybe housekeeping or security. But when I checked the shift logs, no one had been assigned there. I replayed the footage, slowed it down. The figure wasn't walking. It just glided like it didn't have weight. No sound, no footsteps. And for a second, I swear I saw it stop, right in front of the lens, like it was staring into it. Then the feed cut to static. I called security. The guard on duty, Ben, sounded half asleep when he answered. When I told him what I saw, he sighed and said, "Yeah, cameras glitch all the time. Don't let it mess with you." But I could hear the unease in his voice. I asked him to check the East Wing anyway. He hesitated, then said, "Fine, but if I don't come back, you owe me a coffee." His voice was joking, but his laugh wasn't. I watched his flashlight beam on the monitor as he entered the corridor. He kept the radio on, mumbling to himself as he walked. Then the screen flickered again. His light vanished. When it came back, the beam was pointed directly at the camera, dead center, like he'd stopped and was staring straight into it. But he didn't move. He didn't say a word. "Ben," I called through the intercom. No answer. Static filled the room, sharp and loud, like the building itself was exhaling. Then, faintly, I heard it through the feed. A whisper, too soft to make out at first. But then it got clearer, like someone was leaning right against the mic. It said, "He's still here." The screen went black. I ran to the East Wing myself. I don't even remember deciding to go. My body just moved. When I reached the corridor, Ben's flashlight was on the floor, still on, the beam shaking against the cracked tiles. But he wasn't there. The air was freezing. My breath came out in short, trembling clouds. The silence was so deep it felt alive, like the walls were swallowing every sound before it could echo. I tried to call his name, but my voice came out broken, like my throat didn't want to work. That's when I saw movement at the end of the hall. Not a person, more like a shape, tall, thin, stretched wrong somehow. It leaned against the wall, like it was melting into it. The light from my flashlight didn't reach that far, but I could see the outline shift, like it was breathing. I took one step forward. The shape peeled away from the wall, slow and soundless. It started moving toward me, but not walking, more like sliding across the floor, as if the world itself was dragging it forward. And then the intercom crackled again. A voice, low, broken, whispered, Don't look away. I dropped the flashlight. The light rolled across the floor, spinning in dizzy circles before landing on the wall. And in that brief flash, I saw them, dozens of shadows, all pressed against the walls, the ceiling, the floor, like the hospital itself was made of them, all facing me. I ran. When I reached the main lobby, the lights flickered back on. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. Ben was standing by the security desk, pale, silent, eyes unfocused. I shouted his name, and he blinked like he'd just woken up. "What?" he asked, confused. "Where were you?" I demanded. He frowned. I don't know. You called me, right? You said to check the East Wing." I froze. "No. You went in after I called you about the figure." He shook his head. "No, you called me. You told me to go. You sounded weird." He looked at the clock, and his expression changed. He whispered. "It's 3:12 a.m. He had gone missing for almost 40 minutes. The next few nights got worse. The cameras started turning on by themselves. Feeds from rooms that didn't exist anymore. Room numbers I'd seen before in the corrupted files. Each time, the same pattern. A dark hallway, a shadow at the end, and that same whisper, low and drawn out, like someone saying my name underwater. At one point, I even unplugged the entire system. Still, the monitors would flicker on around midnight, glowing faint blue in the dark office. One night, when I came in early, I found Ben staring at the screens. His face was pale, sweaty, like he'd been there for hours. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't look away. "They're watching the Watchers," he said quietly. I asked him what that meant, but he just pointed at one of the monitors. Camera 11, ICU corridor. The footage showed me, standing at the nurse's station, right where I was now. But the date stamp said it was from tomorrow. I couldn't breathe. I shut off the monitor, backed away, trying to calm myself. Ben grabbed my arm, his hand ice cold. "Don't delete it," he said. "They don't like when you delete things." His eyes were hollow, like he hadn't slept in days. Then he looked over my shoulder, his expression changing to sheer terror. I turned around. Nothing there. When I turned back, he was gone. No sound, no movement. Just gone. The door to the East Wing was half open, swinging slowly back and forth. I felt something behind me then. Not a touch, just presence, like air bending around me. The intercom crackled again, louder this time. The same whisper. But now it was clearer. "Don't leave." For the next week, I tried to stay away from the East Wing. I stayed in the main ER, surrounded by people, light, noise. But even there, I felt it. When I passed the hallway mirror, I'd see movement just behind me. Too slow to be a reflection. When I checked the monitors, static would pulse in patterns, like breathing. And sometimes, I'd hear it again. A whisper from the speakers above the station. So faint you'd almost think it was your imagination. "Still watching." That's what it said, over and over. Each night, a little louder. Last night, I stayed after shift, trying to document everything. I recorded audio from the intercom, footage from the East Wing cameras. At first, it was all normal, silence, static, darkness. Then, around 3:11 a.m., something appeared on the feed again. Camera 09, the same hallway. The figure this time was closer, and as I leaned forward to look, I realized something that made my blood run cold. It wasn't a shadow anymore. It was a shape, tall, pale, its face blurred like static. It stood directly beneath the intercom speaker, and then, slowly, it tilted its head upward. The intercom came alive, whispering again, but this time it was my voice, repeating one phrase. "She's watching me." Then, every monitor, all 12, flickered to life, showing the same thing, that same figure, in every hallway, in every angle, everywhere at once. And then, all the screens turned black. For about 5 seconds, there was nothing, just silence. Then the intercom came on again, a different voice this time, a child's, soft, breathing. It said, "I see you." The sound of footsteps echoed down the empty hall outside my office. I didn't look. I couldn't. because deep down I already knew who it was. I've been a 911 dispatcher for 6 years. Night shift. It's not glamorous, not heroic. Mostly drunk calls, false alarms, an occasional real emergency that sticks to you for weeks. But that night, the call from Pump 9 stuck to me in a way I can't explain. It was a little past 2:30 a.m. I remember because the clock on the wall had just clicked over, and the office was so quiet I could hear the second hand ticking. The radio played low in the background, some old rock song that barely reached my ears. Then the line rang. 911, what's your emergency? There was a pause, and a shaky male voice answered. Yeah, this is Tom from the Hillcrest gas stop. I think someone's stuck in the bathroom. I frowned. Stuck. He hesitated. Yeah, I heard banging a few minutes ago. Thought maybe a customer got locked in. But it's weird. How so? I asked. There was a pause again, longer this time. I could hear static crackling faintly in the background, like wind scraping over the receiver. It's coming from the women's bathroom, he said finally, but there's no one inside. My stomach tightened. You checked? Yeah, he said. Door was open. Lights were off, but I still hear it. The banging, like fists on metal. It's coming from inside the wall or something. I pulled up the location details on my screen. Hillcrest gas stop, out by Route 19. Middle of nowhere. The kind of place that looks like it was built for one purpose. To make you uneasy at night. Is anyone else there with you? I asked. No, he said. Just me. The night guy called out sick. All right, stay on the line. Do you have a key to the bathroom? He let out a nervous laugh. Yeah, but there's nobody in there, I told you. I checked twice. I heard it then, faint, through the static on his end. A sound, something like screaming. It wasn't clear at first, muffled, almost like it was underwater, but it was there. High-pitched, desperate, coming through the phone. Faint but real enough to raise goosebumps along my arms. I leaned forward, my heart thudding. Tom, do you hear that? He didn't answer. Tom. Then he whispered, yeah. A long silence followed. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then I said, can you tell where it's coming from? It's in the wall, he whispered, like someone stuck behind it. I started typing the call detail for dispatch. Possible entrapment, unknown cause, possible medical emergency. While I spoke, I kept listening. The sound on the other end was clearer now, not just screaming, crying, someone gasping between sobs. Help me? That's what I thought I heard. Tom, are you sure the bathroom's empty? I asked again. Yes. I told you. He stopped suddenly. I heard something slam in the background. Metal on metal. Then breathing. Not his. Low, raspy. Tom, what was that? He didn't answer. All I could hear was his shallow breathing and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Then he whispered, there's someone in there. I heard the bathroom door creak, open over the line. The sound of squeaky hinges, slow and hesitant. He must have gone back to check. Tom, don't go inside. I said quickly, stay outside until the deputies arrive. He didn't listen. I could hear his footsteps on the tile, his shoes echoing in the small space. Hello, he called out, voice trembling. Then there was a pause. Nothing, just a faint hum of the light, and the steady static that was now pulsing louder. Then a sharp crash. Something heavy hit the wall. The scream came again, closer this time, loud enough to distort the call. Tom, I yelled. What's happening? He was panting now. It's in the wall, Jesus, it's in the wall. What's in the wall? He didn't answer. I could hear him backing away, his shoes squeaking fast on the tile. Then, through the static, I heard something that froze me. A voice, not Tom's. Soft, female, don't leave me. Then nothing. The line went dead. I sat there, my headset buzzing in my ears, staring at the dispatch screen. The clock said 2:41 a.m. The whole call had lasted less than 10 minutes. I sent the nearest patrol unit to the scene immediately. 2 deputies, both about 15 minutes out. While they drove, I just sat there replaying the last few seconds of the call in my head. That voice, the way it said those words. It didn't sound like a recording. It sounded alive. When the deputies arrived, they reported the building locked, lights still on inside. No sign of the clerk. His car was still in the lot. They forced the door and searched the building. Bathroom was empty. No damage. No one trapped. But they did find something. Inside the women's bathroom, behind the far stall, there was a metal maintenance panel on the wall. Old, rusted, half covered in paint. And when they opened it, they found scratches. Deep gouges in the metal, like someone had clawed at it from the inside. No body. No blood. Just those marks. They searched the area for hours. Nothing. No sign of Tom. They even pulled security footage from the night. But the cameras had glitched out for that 10-minute window. The only thing visible was a faint blur near the restroom door, like someone moving just out of frame. The file ended with static. A few days later, one of the deputies called me. He sounded tired, shaken. He said they'd found Tom's phone. It was lying in the grass behind a gas station, face down in the mud, battery drained. They recovered one last recording from it, an automatic voice memo app that had kicked on during the call. He said he'd listened to it. It was quiet for the first few seconds. Then you could hear Tom breathing hard, whispering to himself. Then came the sound of banging again, louder this time, rhythmic, and underneath it, a voice. The same one I'd heard over the phone. A woman's voice, crying, begging. But this time, you could hear words more clearly. She was saying, "Please, I don't want to die in here." The banging grew faster. Then, abruptly, it stopped, and for about 5 seconds, there was silence. Then Tom's voice, close to the mic, whispered, "There's no wall." After that, nothing but static. The station shut down a week later. Corporate said it wasn't related to the incident, just poor business. But a few nights ago, around the same time, 2:30 a.m., we got another call from the same number. The caller ID said, Hillcrest Gas Stop. Even though the building's been demolished, I answered anyway. 911, what's your emergency? No response, just faint breathing. Then a voice, low and trembling, whispered, "Help me, I'm still in here." The line cut out, and in the static, right before it went dead, I could have sworn I heard it again, that faint metallic banging, coming from somewhere behind the walls. It's been a week since the call from Pump 9. I thought I could move on from it. Treat it like every other strange case that ends without answers. But I can't. Something about that voice still follows me. I'll be halfway through a shift, halfway through a cup of bad coffee, and I'll think I hear it again. That faint whisper, that slow, echoing knock. I tried to convince myself it was just stress. But then the calls started coming again. Different nights. Same place. The first one came in at 3:04 a.m. A woman's voice this time. Quiet, shaking. She said, "There's someone in the store." "All right, ma'am." I said, keeping my voice calm. "What's your name?" Silence. Then, I don't know. I was just driving by. The lights were on. The doors were open. "Where are you calling from?" I asked, even though I already saw it on the screen. Hillcrest Gas Stop. That same address. "Ma'am, the store's been closed for weeks." I said gently, "Are you sure you're at the right place?" Another pause. Then a soft, breathless. The door opened by itself. Static filled the line for a second. Then she whispered, "It's open again." I sent a unit immediately. It took them 14 minutes to reach the site. By the time they got there, no one was there. But the deputy's report stuck with me. He said the main door was hanging open, no footprints, no tire marks in the lot, no signs of forced entry. And the lights were flickering inside, even though the power had been disconnected 2 weeks ago. They locked it up again, filed a report, and told me not to worry. But the next night, it happened again. This time it was a man. He said he was a truck driver stopping for gas. But when he went to the counter, there was no clerk. He swore he saw movement through the reflection of the glass cooler doors. Someone standing behind him, moving slow. When he turned around, there was no one. He called from the parking lot, voice trembling, and said he saw the bathroom door open by itself. Just swung open, he said, like somebody was inside. Before I could respond, I heard something faint through his phone. A creak and then a slam. He shouted, "Hey!" And the line cut. I called the number back immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. We sent another unit, but again, no one was there. Truck gone. Lights off this time. Doors closed. But on the ground near the entrance, the deputies found a small puddle of liquid. Not oil, not blood, something else. Thick, clear, sticky like resin. They said it ran from the door all the way toward the back hallway and stopped right outside the bathroom. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It felt wrong, like something repeating itself in different ways, trying to get my attention. 3 nights later, it happened again. Third call, same location, different voice. This time it was a teenage boy. He sounded terrified. He said he and his friends had broken into the building for a dare, and now they were trapped inside. The doors won't open, he said. They slammed shut, like somebody locked us in. I heard another voice in the background, distant, calling his name. Then a sound, something metallic scraping across the floor. "Please send someone." The boy begged. "It's in here." "What's in there?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then whispering, "We can't see it." Every instinct in me went cold. "All right," I said carefully. "Stay where you are. We have officers on the way. Just don't move." But the boy started crying softly. "It's opening the door." "What door?" "The bathroom," he said. I could hear it now through the line. The creak of a hinge, slow, drawn out, like someone deliberately pushing the door open an inch at a time. Then another sound. Footsteps. Not heavy, not dragging. Just wrong. Too slow. Too deliberate. Like something was walking only to be heard. The boy was whispering to someone else now, his voice shaking. "It's right there. It's right there." Then a high-pitched scream. The phone hit the floor. Static. And then, faintly, the sound of a door closing. Soft. Final. By the time deputies arrived, the building was empty again, but they found 3 sets of footprints in the dust, small like teenagers, leading toward the bathroom, and only 2 sets leading back out. I tried not to think about it, but the pattern was impossible to ignore. Every call, every night, the same sequence. A voice calls for help. The door opens, then silence, like the building itself was baiting people, drawing them in, letting them hear what it wanted them to hear. A few days later, I came in early to review the archive calls. I wanted to compare the recordings, find any detail I might have missed. I put on my headset, played the first one, the woman's voice, the one who said the door opened by itself. But when I replayed it this time, I heard something I hadn't before. Underneath her breathing, faintly, a low hum. It wasn't static. It was rhythmic, almost like breathing, and it grew louder every time she mentioned the door. When I played the next call, the truck drivers, it was there too. Same frequency, same pulsing hum, like something was listening from the other end. And then I played the last call, the teenage boy, when he said, "It's opening the door." The hum turned into something else, a whisper. I couldn't make it out at first, so I looped it again and again, slowing it down. After the 7th replay, I realized what it was saying. "Come inside." That night, I stayed long after my shift ended. I couldn't leave it alone. I called the number myself, the one that had called us all those nights. For a second, it didn't even ring. Then, faintly, someone picked up. I said, "Hello? This is County Dispatch." No answer, just a faint sound of wind. And then, a door creaked open. Slow, familiar, followed by a soft, distant voice. A woman's voice. "You shouldn't have called," she whispered. "The line went dead. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, every time I close my eyes, I see it, the door half open in the dark, like it's waiting. And every night, around 3 a.m., my phone vibrates once. No number, no message, just one notification. Missed call, Hillcrest gas stop. And I swear, when I press play on the voicemail, I can hear that door again, opening, then closing, and something between, whispering low, right against my ear. Your turn. I still don't know why I answered that last call. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe part of me already knew it was going to end there. The night was quiet. Too quiet for a Friday. The rain had been coming down in sheets, and the static hum of it against the dispatch windows made the room feel smaller, like the world had shrunk to the size of that desk, that phone, and that one flickering fluorescent light above me. Most nights, I'd have the radio going, but that night, I kept it off, because I'd been hearing things in the static lately. Breathing, whispers, the kind of noises that vanish the second you try to focus on them. And then, at 3:12 a.m., the phone rang. The screen said it all before I even touched it. Hillcrest gas stop. I froze. There hadn't been a call from that location in almost a week. But the moment I saw those words, my stomach dropped. I picked up slowly. "This is County Dispatch," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What's your emergency?" "Nothing. Just wind. Soft and hollow, like someone standing outside. Phone pressed to their chest. Then, a crackle. A deep, muffled voice. "Help me." It was a man this time. His voice was wet, like he'd been crying or bleeding or both. "Sir, can you hear me? Where are you right now?" I'm inside." "Inside where?" I asked, "Can you describe your location?" He started breathing heavier. I could hear his shoes scuffing against tile. "I don't know," he said. "The lights went out. I can't find the door." "Are you at the gas station, sir?" "Hillcrest." Silence, then a quiet, shaking, "Yes." The rain hit harder outside. The window beside me rattled with each gust. My hand was tight around the phone. "Sir, listen to me. Stay where you are. I'm sending help." He whispered, "It's here." "What's here?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just this low sound, like someone dragging something heavy across the floor. Then the clink of glass breaking. "Sir." The line crackled again, faint static mixed with something else. A slow, wet shuffle. Closer, closer. "Don't let it touch me," he whispered. And then the line exploded in noise. A loud crash, metal slamming, shells falling, followed by a single, sharp scream that cut off halfway. Then silence, just a dial tone. I called the number back 3 times. Each time, it rang once and then cut to static. I tried calling local deputies, but all units were already on other calls, and the storm had knocked out half the roads. I could have waited. Should have. But something inside me wouldn't let it go this time. So I grabbed my keys, radio, and flashlight, and I drove there myself. The road out to Hillcrest felt longer than I remembered. The rain blurred the windshield into streaks of gray, and the headlights barely reached 10 feet ahead. By the time I saw the flicker of the gas station sign, my chest was tight with that same dread I felt every night since the first call. The sign buzzed faintly, light flickering in and out, like it couldn't decide if it should stay alive. The word gas was half burned out. The building itself looked wrong, like it had been hollowed out. The windows were dark, but I could see my own reflection staring back at me. Pale, shaking. I stepped out of the car, rain soaking through my jacket instantly. The only sound was a steady drip of water from the awning and the distant hum of the highway. The front door was unlocked. When I pushed it open, a gust of damp air rushed past me, thick with the smell of mold, dust, and something metallic. Inside, it was pitch black except for the faint emergency light above the register. Shelves had been knocked over. Glass crunched under my boots. The whole place was silent, except for the faint hum of the fluorescent light. A weak, trembling buzz that somehow made everything worse. "Hello." I called out, my voice echoing too loud. No answer. I took a few steps in, flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam cut across the floor, over spilled soda, crumpled chip bags, and then stopped. A dark smear, thick and almost black, trailing from the middle of the store toward the back hallway. I followed it. The hallway was colder, the walls damp. Every step made the air heavier, like I was walking underwater. That's when I saw it, the bathroom door, half open, exactly like I'd pictured from calls, like it had been waiting for me. There was writing on it this time. Faint, messy letters scratched into paint. "Come in." I don't know why I did. Curiosity. Guilt. Something deeper, maybe? I pushed the door open slowly. The light inside flickered just once and then steadied. The room was empty, but the sink was running. I turned the handle. But the water didn't stop. It was cloudy, almost pink, and on the mirror above it, written in a streak of dark red, were 3 words. You heard me. I stumbled back. My hand slipped against the sink, and I dropped my flashlight. It rolled across the floor, the beam stopping on something in the far corner. A phone, cracked, still glowing faintly. I picked it up, and the screen lit up with a missed call. The number was mine. I froze. Before I could think, the phone started vibrating in my hand. The screen flashed again. Incoming call. Dispatch office. I answered. My own voice came through the speaker. Sir, can you hear me? Where are you right now? I couldn't breathe. It was my voice from earlier, the exact same words. And underneath it, faint but clear, came another sound. That same low breathing. Slow, heavy, right behind me. I turned around. The bathroom door was closing on its own. Slow. I lunged forward and caught it just before it latched shut. The force of it made my shoulder ache. But I shoved it open again and stumbled out into the hallway. The emergency light above flickered violently, shadows stretching across the walls in strange shapes. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not mine. Not behind me. Above me, like someone walking on the ceiling, pacing back and forth. Each step followed by a faint drip of water hitting the floor beside me. I looked up. The ceiling tile above the bathroom door was sagging, and a dark stain was spreading through it. Drip, drip, drip. I ran. I don't remember reaching the door or starting the car. Just a blinding flash of headlights, the hiss of rain, and the gas station shrinking in the rearview mirror until it disappeared completely. But when I got back to the office, the phones were ringing again. All of them. Every single line blinking red. I picked one up. Nothing. Just static. Then, faintly, that same whisper. Don't leave me here. The next morning, officers checked the gas station again. No one was found, but they confirmed the blood, streaks of it across the tile floor, leading into the bathroom. And near the sink, on the cracked mirror, they found a single handprint, smudged, fresh. But here's the thing, it wasn't mine. And now, every night at exactly 3:12 a.m., the office phone lights up. No caller ID, no number, just the same blinking red light. When I answer, it's always the same silence, that same faint hum. And then, a voice, soft and wet, whispering through the static, still waiting. I've been a night dispatcher for almost 8 years. I've heard everything. Overdoses, break-ins, suicides, people crying, people screaming. You build a wall around it after a while. You have to, or it eats you alive. But I still remember the ones that crack through, the ones that crawl under your skin and stay there. This one started like that. Quiet, normal. A ringing phone at 1:47 a.m. I almost didn't answer it right away because another line was flashing. But something about the sound. It wasn't the usual tone. It felt urgent, sharp. I picked up. This is County Dispatch. I said, "What's your emergency?" All I heard at first was breathing. Fast, uneven, then a girl's voice whispering, trembling so hard I could barely make out the words. Please, please help me. I straightened in my chair. Okay, I'm here. Take a deep breath. What's your name? Emily, she said, almost choking on the word. I'm trapped. My heart thudded once, hard. Trapped where? I don't know, she said. It's not my house. I woke up here. I can't find the door. I typed fast, logging the call. Okay, Emily will get you out of there. Are you hurt? No, she whispered. But there's someone here. Those words. They hit me like a nail to the chest. Someone there with you? I think so. I heard them downstairs. I don't want to talk too loud. Okay, I said quietly, matching her tone. Do you see any windows? Anything that looks like the front of the house. She sniffled. I'm in a bedroom. There's wallpaper with flowers. It looks old. The windows nailed shut. The typing under my fingers felt loud in the silence of the room. All right, Emily, you're doing great. Do you see any street lights outside? Maybe a mailbox? A pause. Then she said, there's a long driveway. Trees. I can't see much else. It's dark. Okay, do you remember how you got there? She started crying then. Soft, muffled sobs. I don't know. I was at a party. My friend left early. I took a drink from this guy and... She stopped. I waited. Then she whispered, I think he brought me here. My throat went dry. I sent out a ping request to the cell tower, praying her signal would give us something. While it loaded, I kept her talking. Emily, do you hear anything now? Silence. Then a faint creak. Wooden floorboards bending somewhere near her. She gasped, he's moving. I turned up the headset volume. Emily, listen to me. Can you hide somewhere? A closet, under bed. Anywhere safe? She didn't answer right away. Then I heard shuffling, fabric rustling. I'm in the closet, she whispered. It smells like paint and metal. There's a box. Good. Stay quiet, okay? Don't hang up. I watched the GPS trace jump once on the map, then land on an empty stretch of county road, rural farmland. Nearest house, unlisted. My stomach dropped. Emily, I'm sending deputies right now. You're not alone. She let out a shaky breath. Okay. I muted my mic for a second, calling it in to the responding unit. They started heading that way about 12 minutes out. When I switched back to her line, she was whispering something. I turned up the gain again. It was her voice, barely audible. He's talking to someone. My hand froze on the keyboard. You said he's not alone? She didn't answer right away. Then, soft and terrified, he said my name. The line went quiet. Emily? Nothing. Emily, are you still there? A faint click, like someone lifting the phone from another line. Then, slow footsteps. I could hear them through her phone, getting closer. Each creak would made my chest tighten. Emily, don't move. Don't say a word. I whispered. She started breathing faster, short, panicked breaths. And then the sound, a door opening. Who's in there? A man's voice said deep calm, too calm. The phone muffled as she covered it. Her voice barely came through, just a whimper. Then a loud bang, and the call cut out. I stared at the screen. No signal, no connection. Just that blinking cursor beside her name. My fingers felt numb. I tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. The deputies called in 5 minutes later. They were halfway there. I told them everything. I stayed on the line while they approached the property. The storm outside was getting worse. Rain hitting the windows so hard it sounded like static. Through the radio, I heard the sergeant's voice. Dispatch! We got a residence in sight. 2-story farmhouse. Lights are off. We're going in. I leaned forward, gripping the mic. Copy that. Please confirm if anyone's inside. Static filled the line for a few seconds. Then the sergeant came back, voice low. House looks empty. Front door was open. I waited. Seconds felt like minutes. Then another voice broke through the radio, nervous, uneasy. Dispatch! There's something you should see. My pulse kicked. Go ahead. There's a phone upstairs. Closet. Still warm. No one here. I froze. Any sign of the girl? Negative. But... He trailed off. But what? On the wall next to the closet, there's writing. Writing? He paused again. His voice was quieter this time. It says, "Help me, Emily." I stared at the headset in silence. She wrote it. I asked. No, he said. The handwriting's different. Bigger, like someone else wrote it. My throat closed up. I tried to respond, but my voice came out thin. Keep searching the house. We already did, he said. It's old, empty, looks abandoned for years. I blinked hard, but her call came from there. You sure it's the same address? Confirmed by signal ping, he said. Pause. Except what? There's no power, no active line connection. The phone shouldn't have worked. That was 3 years ago. They never found Emily. No fingerprints, no blood, nothing. The house was sealed off and eventually condemned. But every few months, That same number shows up on our logs. Unregistered, same tower, same timestamp, 1:47 a.m. When I pick up, all I hear is that same soft breathing. Sometimes I think I hear her whisper, just one word, home. And then the line goes dead. After Emily's first call, I didn't sleep for 2 days. Her voice stuck in my head. That soft, broken whisper, the sound of her trying to breathe without being heard. The worst part wasn't the call cutting off. It was that I still heard her breathing, even after the line went dead. Like some part of her stayed connected. We logged the call, wrote the report, filed it under missing person, pending investigation. And then, like everything else that doesn't have an ending, it just faded into paperwork. But a week later, she called again. It was a slow Tuesday night. The dispatch room was dark except for the glow of monitors and the hum of the air vents. I was halfway through my coffee when line 3 started blinking. No caller ID. Same time as before, 1:47 a.m. I stared at it for a second, just long enough to feel my pulse rise. Then I answered. This is County Dispatch. What's your emergency? At first, nothing, just static. Then a faint voice. Please don't hang up. I knew that voice. It was Emily. Emily? I said, my voice almost cracking. Emily, where are you? I don't know, she said. Her voice trembled, but she didn't sound as panicked as before. More tired, distant. I've been trying to leave. I gripped the mic tighter. You're safe now, okay? I'm here. Can you describe what you see? There was a pause. Then, in a shaky breath, she said, it's the same house. That house. The one that wasn't supposed to exist. The one the deputies swore was empty. Power cut. Phone disconnected. I tried to keep my voice calm. Emily, listen carefully. We're going to get you out of there. Again. No, she said quickly. You don't understand. I left. I ran. I walked for hours, and somehow I'm back here. Her words hit me like cold water. You mean you found the same house again? I didn't find it, she said. It found me. The line crackled with faint interference, like distant radio static. I could almost hear movement behind her. Emily, are you alone? I don't think so, she whispered. I keep seeing shadows. They move when I move. But when I stop, they stop too. My stomach nodded. Emily, can you tell where they are? Inside the room? She sniffled. In the hallway, just outside the door. They don't make noise. They just stand there. I lowered my voice. Okay, we'll do this together. I need you to stay calm. Can you find the door handle? A shaky breath, then a faint creak. I found it, she said. Good. On 3. I want you to open the door and tell me what you see. Just describe it. Don't run yet. Silence. Then soft counting. 1, 2, 3. The sound that came through wasn't a door opening. It was a voice. A man's voice. Deep, but whispering through static. Emily? I froze. It wasn't coming from behind her mic. It was on the line, in my headset. Emily, don't move. I said quickly, what did you hear? She started crying quietly. He's here again. Where? Behind me. My chest felt like it was shrinking. Emily, look at me. You need to get out of that room now. I can't, she whispered. He said to stay still. He said if I move, he'll see me. My pulse was pounding so loud, I could hear in my ears. Emily, listen to my voice, okay? Just my voice. Follow it. Follow your voice? Yes. Keep your phone to your ear and walk toward my voice. Don't look at him. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't move. Then I heard soft footsteps. The floor creaked under her weight. You're doing great. I whispered. Just keep walking. What do you see? There's a hallway, she said. The wallpaper's peeling. There's something wet on the floor. Okay, ignore that. Keep going. I can hear him, she said suddenly. He's whispering, but I can't tell what he's saying. I adjusted the mic, heart racing. You're almost there, Emily. Just keep moving toward my voice. Do you see a door? A window? There's a light, she whispered, at the end of the hall. Good. Go toward it. The sound cut in and out as she walked. Her breath quickened. Then she said, He's closer now. Don't stop, I said. He can't hurt you. Just focus on me. She whimpered. He's saying my name again. Don't listen. You're almost out. There was a loud crack, like with splintering. Then her voice turned frantic. He's behind me. He's running. Go, Emily, go. The sound of her footsteps turned into a sprint. Pounding echoes through the phone. I could hear her breathing hard, crying, gasping. Then the sound of a door slamming. Emily, talk to me. Silence. For several seconds, all I heard was her breathing. Then she said, I made it. I'm outside. I exhaled hard, hand shaking over the keyboard. Good. Stay where you are. Can you tell me what you see? I see trees, she said softly. It's dark. There's fog everywhere. I logged the coordinates from the cell ping. Same area. Same stretch of farmland. Okay, Emily, listen to me carefully. I'm going to send help to you right now. Just keep talking. Stay on the line. She paused. Then in the faintest voice, she asked, Who's behind you? I frowned. What? She whispered again, her voice trembling. There's someone standing behind you. I turned instinctively. Even though I knew she couldn't see me, the dispatch room was empty, just the quiet of my machines and a clock ticking too loud. Emily, there's no one here. I said, You're just scared. It's okay. But she didn't sound convinced. Her voice grew softer, distant. He's with you too. The line erupted with static, loud and violent. I ripped the headset off, but I could still hear it, faintly, even without it, like the sound wasn't just in the headphones anymore. I tried calling back. No answer. Then, just before the line died completely, her voice came through one last time. A whisper, barely there. Don't follow the voice. When the deputies reached the location 15 minutes later, they found the woods empty. No footprints. No phone. Nothing but the faint outline of a single handprint on the dirt. Small, like a teenager's. The call record showed it came from the same unregistered number. Same timestamp. 1:47 a.m. The weirdest part? After that night, the dispatch log started picking up phantom recordings, snippets of voices repeating my words. On the review tapes, I could hear myself saying things I never remembered saying. Follow my voice. Go toward the light. Don't turn around. Every time, a different voice answers. A voice that sounds just like Emily's. Now, every time I work the night shift, I leave one headset off my ear. Because sometimes, right around 1:47, I still hear her. Not on the line. Not from the speakers. Just a whisper, close to my ear. Can you still hear me? And I always want to say no, but I can't, because part of me wonders if she's not the one who's trapped anymore. Maybe it's me. When the call log came back with that same number, the unregistered one, I begged my supervisor to let me ride along with the response team. I told him it was just to verify the signal, but really I needed to see it, to see if the house was real, or if I was losing my mind. We left the station just before dawn, me, Deputy Rowan, and another officer named Carter. The roads were empty, the kind of dark that makes the headlights feel useless. The GPS showed nothing but a blank stretch of farmland ahead, yet the signal was clear. Same coordinates as Emily's call. And even though I knew better, I kept hearing her last words in my head. He's with you too. The air outside smelled like rain and soil when we parked near the woods. The world felt still, too still. Rowan killed the engine and turned to me. You sure about this? I nodded, though I wasn't. We stepped out, flashlights slicing through the fog. There was a faint trail leading deeper into the trees. Broken branches, scuffed dirt, something dragged across the ground. I followed it, heart pounding with every step. And then, out of nowhere, there was the house. Exactly like Emily described. 2 stories, paint stripped down to gray wood. A porch sagging under its own weight. No lights, no movement. Just waiting, Carter muttered under his breath. How the hell is this place not on record? Rowan ignored him and radioed dispatch, confirming the address. But the reply that came back made my skin crawl. There is no house at that location. Inside, the air was colder. Dust floated in the flashlight beams like ash. Every step we took echoed too loud, like the walls were listening. The floorboards creaked under our boots. There was furniture, old, worn, but still arranged like someone lived there. A couch covered in a thin layer of dust, a coffee mug half full of black liquid turned to mold, and a single photo on the wall, a family smiling, but their faces blurred, literally blurred, like the photo had melted. Rowan frowned and lifted it closer. What the hell? But before he could finish, I noticed something else. A smell, faint but distinct, metallic, blood. We followed it into the next room. The kitchen looked untouched, but the sink was filled with rust-colored water, and on the table, scattered like someone had emptied their pockets, were a few objects. A phone case, a hair tie, a small silver bracelet with a name etched into it. Emily. My stomach dropped. I reached for it, but Rowan stopped me. Don't, he said quietly. We need to call this in first. He turned to Carter, who was standing by the back door. Go check the basement. Make sure it's clear. Carter grunted and disappeared down the narrow stairs. I stayed there, staring at that bracelet. It was real, solid, cold, proof she existed. Proof I wasn't just hearing ghosts through the phone. But then I noticed something else beside it. A folded piece of paper. I picked it up, careful not to smudge the edges. It was a missing person flyer. Not Emily's. A different girl. Different face. Same age. And behind it, under a thin layer of dust, another and another and another. Rowan and I unfolded them one by one. Each one was a missing teen reported from the past 2 years. Each one had something beside it. A necklace, a glove, a torn backpack strap, a small museum of the forgotten. Then we heard Carter shout. It wasn't a yell, more like a startled cry that got cut short. Rowan drew his gun and bolted toward the basement stairs. I followed, my breath catching with every step. The basement was darker than it should have been. Our flashlights barely cut through it. Carter? Rowan called. No answer. Just a faint dripping of water somewhere in the back. Then the beam of my light caught something, a pile of shoes, dozens of them, all sizes, all worn, some small enough to belong to kids. And on the far wall, someone had drawn symbols, circles, lines, a figure with no face, all carved deep into the concrete, like fingernails had done it. I whispered, Rowan? He turned, and that's when the basement door slammed shut behind us. The sound echoed through the house. We both ran for the stairs, pounding on the wood, yelling for Carter. Carter, open the damn door. No answer. Rowan slammed his shoulder against it. It wouldn't budge. That's when the lights flickered. Not the flashlight, the actual house lights. For a split second, the entire room was bathed in yellow light, and I saw movement. Someone or something standing in the far corner. Rowan swung his flashlight that way, but there was nothing there, just shadows. My heart was racing, my palms slick. Who's down here? He yelled. Silence. Then, slowly, from behind us, the creak, the sound of footsteps on wood, but not from above, from inside the basement. We turned our lights toward the sound. There was a narrow hallway leading deeper into the foundation, half collapsed, lined with broken boards. And at the end of it, a door. It was slightly open. I don't know why, but I started walking toward it. Rowan whispered, don't. But I couldn't stop. Something about it felt familiar, like I'd been there before. The closer I got, the more I could hear it, a faint sound, just under the static buzz of my own blood in my ears. A voice, a girl's voice. Help me? I froze. Emily? I whispered. The voice grew clearer. Help me, please. I took one more step and reached for the door handle. Cold metal, slick with something wet. And then the smell hit me, rotten copper. Rowan yanked me back just as I pushed the door open. Inside wasn't Emily. It was a small, windowless room, empty except for dozens of cassette tapes stacked in uneven towers, each one labeled by hand. Names written in black ink. Emily, Sarah, Tyler, Nina, Marcus, dozens. Rowan picked one up and turned it over. There was no dust on it, These weren't old. They'd been placed here recently. I picked up another, and before I could stop myself, I whispered, "Play it." Rowan hesitated, then pulled out his radio recorder and pressed the cassette inside. At first, just static. Then, a voice. A teenage girl crying. "Please, he's coming." He said not to talk. "Please, I don't want to..." Then a sharp noise like a sudden drop. A scream cut short. The tape clicked off. Rowan's hands were shaking. "We're getting out of here." He grabbed my arm, and we ran for the stairs. This time, the door opened easily, like it had never been locked. Carter was gone. No sign of him anywhere. We called for backup, but when the rest of the unit arrived, the house was empty again. No tapes, no photos, no basement door. Just a flat concrete floor where the stairs should have been. They thought we were exhausted, hallucinating from stress. But Rowan looked at me as we stood in the morning light, both of us still breathing heavy, and whispered. "You saw it too." I nodded, and then something hit the ground behind us. A small silver bracelet. Emily's. It landed right between our feet. We both turned toward the woods, but there was nothing there. Only that faint hum again, like static, like someone whispering from somewhere too close. When we got back to the station, I checked the evidence locker. Empty. No bracelet. No record of the tapes. No file for Carter. It was as if the house had never existed. Or worse, like it didn't want to be remembered. But the next night, when I sat down at my desk, I saw something on my monitor. A new voicemail, time-stamped 1:47 a.m., from an unregistered number. And when I hit play, it was my own voice. "Follow the voice," it said. "Go toward the light." Then, softly, "Don't forget what you found in the basement." It had been 3 weeks since the house. 3 weeks since Emily's voice, since Carter disappeared, since Rowan stopped coming to work. The station felt colder lately. Not the air, something else. The silence, maybe. The weight that hangs there after something wrong has happened. But no one will say it out loud. I tried to move on. I told myself Emily's case was over, that the bracelet, the tapes, even that voice, they were all stress, exhaustion, a mind stretched too far. But I didn't believe it, because every night I still heard the faint sound of static in my headset, even when the line was clear. And sometimes if I listened too long, it started to sound like breathing. That night started like any other. Rain tapping against the windows. Coffee going cold on my desk. I was halfway through a shift that had been quiet. Too quiet. When the line lit up, unknown number. For a second, I froze. My stomach twisted, like it recognized something before my brain did. I took a breath and answered. 911, what's your emergency? A voice came through. A teenage boy this time. Shaky, whispering, on the edge of crying. "HLO? Is this the police?" "Yes," I said, steady as I could. "Are you in danger?" He sniffled, trying to calm himself. "I don't know. I think someone's in the house." That same phrase. The same tone. My chest went tight. "Okay," I said carefully. "Can you tell me your name?" "Tyler," he said. "Please, I don't know where I am." I was walking home, and someone grabbed me. I woke up here. My pulse quickened. This wasn't possible. "Tyler, can you look around? Do you see anything that might help me find you?" There was rustling, the faint sound of footsteps on wood. "There's a couch," he said softly, "and a photo on the wall. The faces are all blurry." I almost dropped the phone. "No, it couldn't be. Tyler," I whispered. "Describe the house to me." He hesitated. 2 floors. The windows are all boarded up. I tried the door, it won't open. There's a smell like blood. My throat went dry. It was the same house. The same one Emily had called from. The one that didn't exist anymore. "Tyler," I said, forcing myself to sound calm. "I'm going to stay with you, okay? I need you to tell me everything you hear or see." "Oh, okay." I signaled to the supervisor, who began tracing the call, but I already knew what would happen. The same empty coordinates in the woods. Still, I kept him talking. "Where are you right now?" "In a kitchen, I think," he whispered. "There's stuff everywhere, like someone's been living here." but it's old. What kind of stuff? Hair ties, necklaces, phones. There's a bracelet, too, with a name on it. I felt my hands go numb. What name? He paused. It's hard to read. Looks like Emily? The sound that came out of me wasn't a word. More like air leaving my lungs. He went on, Please, you have to get me out of here. I think he's upstairs. Who? I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. The man. He keeps whispering my name. The line filled with static then, that same distorted hum. But underneath it, I could hear something else. Faint breathing, not his, deeper, closer to the mic. I whispered, Tyler, stay quiet. Don't move. He didn't answer. Tyler? Nothing. Just static and that faint, steady breath. Tyler, talk to me. Then a click, like someone picking up another phone on the same line. And a voice. A whisper, deep and broken. Why did you come back? I froze. Every hair on my arm stood up. The supervisor looked at me, mouthing what's happening. But I couldn't speak. I just stared at the console, watching the call timer tick on. Then Tyler came back, his voice trembling. He's in the hallway, he whispered. He's coming down the stairs. I gripped the headset. Tyler, hide. Find somewhere to hide right now. He ran. I could hear the floor creaking under him, a door slamming, his breath ragged and fast. I'm in a closet, he whispered. He's walking around. He's humming. I could hear it too now, faint, tuneless, low. Tyler, stay as quiet as you can. The police are coming, okay? He sniffled. You don't understand. They won't find me. What do you mean? They never do. The trace came back. Same coordinates. Same field. No structure detected. But this time, something else. The call origin was time-stamped from inside the 911 network itself. As if the signal wasn't coming from the house, but through us. I felt dizzy. Dispatch to Unit 34. Respond to coordinates 51.098 north. Before I could finish, Tyler screamed. A loud crash came to the headset, metal hitting wood, glass shattering. Then silence. Tyler? Tyler, are you there? Nothing. Just the faint sound of breathing again. Then, softly, help me? But it wasn't Tyler's voice. It was Emily's. I ripped the headset off. The sound was still playing, muffled through the speaker. Static, whispers, and underneath it, something like a heartbeat. Everyone in the room froze. Rowan wasn't there anymore, but I knew if he was, he'd say what I was thinking. It's repeating. The same pattern. Different voice, same house, same ending. I picked up the phone again, forcing myself to listen. It was quiet now. Then, slowly, the sound of footsteps came through. Tyler? I whispered, but a child's voice answered instead. Who's Tyler? I swallowed hard. Who is this? The voice giggled softly, almost sweetly. You should come back. You left your things here. Then, click, the line died. The supervisor told me to go home, to take some time off. But I couldn't. When I got home, I opened my laptop and started going through archive call logs. One by one, I searched for anything from that same location. It went back years. Dozens of calls. Different names. Different voices. All from that same empty stretch of land. The oldest one was from 1998. A woman's voice saying, I can hear them walking upstairs. And the file after that was blank. Just a recording label called corrupted. Except when I played it, I heard a faint voice, a young girl's whisper. Don't hang up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that house. Not the outside, the inside. The couch. The kitchen. The blurred photo. And that bracelet on the table, waiting for me. At some point, I must have dozed off, because I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing. Unknown number. 1:16 a.m. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. Hello. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, breathing. Tyler? I whispered. No, the voice said. He's gone now. My mouth went dry. Who is this? You know who, it said. And then I heard my own voice echo back through the line. Stay with me. Tell me what you see. The exact words I'd said to Tyler. Then, behind it, a new sound, the faint creak of a door. And in that small, empty pause before the line cut off, I heard it, a whisper, so soft it almost blended into static. You can't save them. You're next. When I checked the call records later, there was nothing there. No number. No timestamp. Like it had never happened. But I can still hear it sometimes. That faint hum behind the silence. And every night at 1:16, my monitor flickers once, just long enough to show a line of text on the screen. Incoming call unknown. It disappears before I can touch it. And yet, I know it'll come again. Different voice. Same house. Same pattern. The last night didn't feel like an ending. It felt ordinary. Too ordinary. Quiet enough that I should have felt grateful. But silence isn't peace. Not in this job. Silence means something's coming. It was my 12th shift in a row. The kind that bleeds into the next until you stop knowing which day it is. The office lights hummed softly. That same pale flicker that made everyone look a little sick, a little ghostly. Rowan's old desk was still empty. Nobody wanted to sit there. People avoided even looking that way. Like the chair itself remembered things we didn't want to. The call board had been dead for hours. I kept glancing at the clock. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until I could go home. And that's when the red light blinked. Unknown number. The same pattern. Every time, my throat tightened. I didn't want to answer. My hand hovered over the receiver. For a second, I actually thought about pulling the plug. But I didn't. I never do. 911, what's your emergency? Static. Just soft, hissing static. I tried again. This is emergency services. Can you hear me? Still nothing. Just that low, whispering noise like a radio caught between stations. I was about to disconnect when I heard it. Faint and distant, like someone crying through a wall. A sob. Not loud, not forced. Just small. Real. Human. Hello. I said quietly. Can you tell me where you are? No answer. Only that soft, broken breathing buried under the static. I turned up the volume until it hurt my ears. The sobbing grew clearer, then stopped completely. And a voice, so faint I almost missed it, whispered, "Don't hang up." My heart skipped. It was a woman's voice. Familiar somehow. I'd heard it before, but I couldn't place where. "Ma'am," I said, my voice trembling a little. "You're safe. I just need you to stay calm. Tell me what's happening." Silence, then a sharp inhale, like a cry swallowed too fast. The sound shifted, not static anymore. More like the low hum of a room alive with electricity. I heard faint thuds in the background. Footsteps maybe. And then a whisper so close it felt like it was coming from right beside me. "You didn't save me." I froze. It wasn't the woman anymore. It was Emily, the girl from the first call. Her voice cracked as she said it again. "You didn't save me." My throat burned. "Emily?" I whispered. "Where are you?" But all I heard was a faint laugh. Small, bitter, tired. Then another voice joined hers. "Tyler." And then another. A little boy. A man. A woman. Dozens of voices blending into one steady hum. Each one crying. Whispering. Saying my name. Over and over. I ripped the headset off. Shaking. The room around me felt wrong. Stretched, dimmer somehow. I looked at the others, but no one else seemed to hear it. They were talking, typing, moving like everything was normal, but I could still hear the sound even without the headset. The static wasn't coming from the phone anymore. It was in the room. The overhead lights flickered once. Then the line on my monitor blinked again. Active call. I hadn't touched anything, and there it was, through the faint hum of the speakers, that sobbing again, this time closer. Louder. I couldn't help it. I put the headset back on. "Emily?" A whisper answered me. It's not just me anymore. The trace system opened automatically. I didn't even start it. The coordinates filled themselves in. It wasn't a field this time. It was here. 911 Dispatch Center. My station. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. My pulse pounded in my ears. The call timer ticked on. 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Who is this? I demanded, though my voice cracked halfway through. What do you want? The static grew louder, a violent hiss that rattled the headset. Then it dropped out completely, and in the silence that followed, a single voice spoke. My own. You should have let them go. I backed away from the console. The sound followed, faint, echoing through every headset in the room now. Everyone stopped what they were doing. One by one, heads turned toward me. The same voice, mine, repeating through each station. Why didn't you hang up? Why did you come back? Why are you still listening? I slammed my hands over my ears, but it didn't stop. The sound wasn't coming from the devices anymore. It was coming from inside the room, from the vents, the walls, the floor. I could feel it vibrating under my feet. The hum of 1,000 voices trying to speak at once. The lights flickered again, and for half a second, every monitor in the room showed the same thing. A still frame of that house, that same living room, the same couch, the photo with the blurred faces, and right in the center of it, a headset, mine, covered in blood. I don't remember leaving the building. 1 second I was standing there. The next I was outside, rain soaking through my shirt, the sky a flat black void. I drove. I didn't even think about where. But when I finally stopped the car, I realized where I was. That empty stretch of road. The one where the house used to be. Except it wasn't empty anymore. Through the rain, I could see lights flickering behind the trees. And then, faintly, the sound of ringing phone. My radio crackled. Dispatched, you copy? It was the supervisor's voice. I picked it up with shaking hands. Yeah, I said, I'm here. You're not supposed to be there, she said quietly. It's gone. That property was condemned years ago. I swallowed hard. Then why do I hear the phone ringing? She didn't answer. The ringing grew louder, echoing across the field. And underneath it, faint static. I walked toward the sound. I shouldn't have. I knew that, but something about it, the rhythm of it, the familiarity, pulled me in. Every step felt heavier, like the ground wanted to keep me there. By the time I reached the clearing, the rain had stopped, and there it was, the house, standing exactly as it had been described. 2 stories, windows boarded, light leaking through cracks in the wood. The front door was open. The phone was ringing inside. I stood there, shaking, staring at it. Then I heard the voice again. My voice. Answer it. The rest feels blurry now. I remember walking through the door. The smell hit first. Rot, old wood, something metallic underneath. The living room looked exactly like I imagined it would. The couch, the broken photo frame, and on the table, a dusty black phone still ringing. I picked it up. 911. I whispered, "What's your emergency?" Static, then a faint sob, then nothing. The call ended on its own, and somewhere deep in the house, another phone started ringing. That's where my memory ends. I woke up in my car the next morning, parked on the side of the road. My headset was on the passenger seat. Even though I hadn't taken it from the office, the display light was blinking. New call recorded, 3:17 a.m. I pressed play. Nothing but static. And just before the end, a faint sound, like someone crying, muffled through glass. Then a whisper. Help me? They said I must have imagined it. The station log showed no calls after midnight. But I know what I heard, because every night since then, the phone rings once at 3:17 a.m. Always once. Always from unknown. And when I pick up, there's only static. Until faintly, somewhere far away, I hear myself whisper, "Don't hang up." It started like any other shift. Slow, quiet. The kind of night when hum computers felt louder than the world outside. I remember staring at the clock. It was 2:04 a.m. when the line blinked red. Unknown number. Private ID. I didn't even hesitate. Habit, I guess. You don't think. You just answer. 911, what's your emergency? The sound hit me before the words did. Heavy breathing, sharp, uneven, like someone had been running for a long time. Hello, I said again. And then finally a voice. Please help me. The man sounded terrified. His voice shook, so hard it almost broke between words. I straightened up. Sir, tell me what's happening. There's someone chasing me, he panted. He's been following me for miles. I can't. I don't think he's human. At first, I thought it was a prank. We got those sometimes drunk kids, late-night thrill seekers. But this voice, it wasn't faked. He was crying. All right, I said, try and keep my voice calm. Where are you right now? I don't know. He was shouting now. It's just a road, empty, no lights. I've been driving for an hour and it's like it doesn't end. I typed fast, logging the call, trying to triangulate a signal. Okay, listen. You said someone's chasing you. Are they in a car? A pause. Then, softly. No. I felt my stomach tighten. Then how are they following you, sir? They're running, he said. They're running beside the car. The line went silent, except for his ragged breathing. I could hear the hum of his engine in the background, the wind rushing through a cracked window. Sir, I said quietly, you're telling me someone is running alongside your car right now? Yes, he said. He's right there. I turned down the lights on my monitor, an old trick, so I could focus on sound. Through the faint static, I heard something else. A rhythmic thud, steady, too fast to be footsteps, too heavy to be wind. Then a scrape, metal against glass. He gasped. He's at the window. The sound cut out into static. My chest went tight. Sir? Sir, can you hear me? Nothing. I checked the trace again. The coordinates flickered between counties, like the call was bouncing around. Then, after a few seconds, his voice came back, faint, whispering like he was hiding. He's gone. I don't see him anymore. I exhaled slowly, but my heart didn't slow down. All right, just breathe, okay? I'm sending a patrol car your way. Keep talking to me until they reach you. What's around you? Any landmarks? Nothing, he whispered. Just road and trees. I can't see the stars anymore. It's like the sky's gone. Something about his words didn't sound right. I typed a quick note, asking the nearest unit to check Highway 29, an old stretch nobody used after midnight. Okay, sir, listen, I said. Stay on the line. I need you to pull over if you can, somewhere safe. He laughed, short, dry, hollow. There's nowhere safe out here. Just find a shoulder, anything. The car screeched suddenly, tires against asphalt. Sir, what happened? I saw him again, he said, voice shaking, in the headlights this time, standing in the middle of the road. I could hear the fear in every breath. What did he look like? Wrong. That's all he said. He started describing it slowly, like each word cost him. Tall, too tall, long arms. But his face, it wasn't a face. It was like light bending the wrong way. I looked at it too long and I felt sick. He started crying again. I thought it was a man at first, but it moves like it's trying to remember how to be one. I didn't know what to say. I've taken calls from people shot, stabbed, dying. I've heard screams that still wake me up at night, but I've never heard that kind of fear before. He wasn't just scared of dying. He was scared of seeing. I tried to sound calm, but my voice was shaking too. Sir, I need you to drive away. Don't look back. Just go, okay? Keep me on the line. He didn't answer. Then the engine roared. Tires screeched. He was moving again. For a few minutes, all I heard was a rush of air, the road beneath him, his breathing uneven. And then he said, quietly, it's keeping up. I froze. What do you mean? I can see in the mirror. It's not running anymore. It's just there. He paused. I think it's smiling. The air in the dispatch room felt colder somehow. I rubbed my hands together, even though my palms were slick with sweat. Keep going, I said softly. You're going to be okay. But I didn't believe it. He started talking again, faster now. It's everywhere. Every time I look out the window, it's closer. It's like the headlights can't touch it. It's just part of the dark. Then a loud bang. He screamed. What was that? I shouted. The back window. It's... Glass shattered through the line. Static. Then a low, distorted sound, not quite human. Something like a laugh, but dragged out wrong. And then silence. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. For a full minute, the line was dead except for faint wind. "Sir," I said again, my voice barely a whisper. "Are you still there?" Nothing. And then, faintly, a click like a door opening. His breathing came back. Slow, uneven. "I pulled over," he said. "I don't know why I stopped." My pulse spiked. "You need to get back in the car right now." He didn't answer. I said, "Get back in the car." "I can't," he said softly. "He's in it." The line filled with static again. But underneath it, I could hear something faint. A slow, wet dragging sound, like something moving across gravel. "Sir," I whispered. "Listen to me. Walk away. Keep the phone close. Don't look at it." He started sobbing. "I can't move. It's whispering my name." The static deepened, almost like breathing. "What's it saying?" I asked. His voice cracked. "It's saying you hear it too." My throat went dry. "What?" "It's saying you hear it too." Then silence. No breathing. No static. Nothing. I called his name again and again. Finally, there was one last sound. A single knock against glass. Then the call ended. I sat there for a long time after that, just staring at the red light until it stopped blinking. The report was logged as drop signal. The highway patrol didn't find anything. No car, no man, no signs of an accident. Just a stretch of road that didn't appear on any map. They said it must have been a crank call, a glitch, bad routing through old lines. But I know what I heard, because sometimes when I'm driving home at night down the same empty roads, I still hear that voice, that same man, still running, still begging. And every time when the static fades in my car speakers, I hear him whisper, "You hear it too." The morning after that call, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car, just outside the station, listening to the hum of the engine and the way the world still felt wrong. Like I'd carried something out with me from that call. I kept hearing his voice. That breathless panic. The static. You hear it too. I thought maybe I imagined it. The kind of thing your mind plays back when it's too quiet. But when I walked back inside to file the report, there were already 2 patrol officers talking about it. Apparently, they'd gone out to check the location, or at least where the signal said came from. They didn't find a car. No blood. No signs of a crash. Just tire marks. And a single cell phone. Screen cracked, battery dead. Lying in the dirt near the shoulder. The road itself looked wrong, they said, like it went on forever in both directions. The trees on each side looked darker. One of the officers joked about it. Said the highway felt off, like the stars disappeared the moment you looked up. The other one didn't laugh. He just said, "Let's not go back there again," and walked away. When they handed me the phone, I hesitated before touching it. I don't know why. It was just an ordinary smartphone, scratched, weathered, smudged with dirt. But when I picked it up, it was warm, like someone had been holding it seconds before. They gave me the report to attach to the dispatch log. I tried to treat it like any other case. Standard missing person, unconfirmed location, no contact. But the way that call had ended, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The officers told me they'd traced the tire marks for about half a mile before they just stopped, like the car vanished in the middle of the road. No skid marks, no signs of impact, just a clean stretch of pavement, and then nothing. I kept reading that line in the report over and over. No vehicle, no person. Those words stayed in my head the whole day. When the lab ran the phone, they said it had no registered number, no SIM card, no service provider, just empty logs, like someone had wiped it. But in the internal audio storage, there was one file, only a few seconds long. I remember sitting there in the back of the communications room, headphones on, the hum of the fluorescent lights above me. I pressed play. At first, there was nothing but static, then a faint noise underneath it, something soft, rhythmic, like someone breathing through glass. And then a whisper, so faint it barely registered as sound. I turned up the volume, listened again, and there it was, a man's voice, broken and strained, whispering one word. Stop. I sat back in my chair, staring at the waveform on the screen. The whole clip lasted only 5 seconds, but it felt longer, like something in it stretched time. When I took the headphones off, I realized my hands were shaking. I looked around the room. Everyone else was busy, calls coming in, officers joking, papers shuffling. Normal life. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the room felt smaller. I logged the file, attached it to the report, and moved on to the next case. Or tried to, because every time I blinked, I saw that stretch of road in my mind. Empty, silent, dark. And that voice echoing through static. Stop. That night, I drove home with the radio off. I couldn't stand the sound of static anymore. The roads were quiet. Too quiet. Even the street lights seemed dimmer than usual. Halfway home, I passed a stretch of highway I didn't recognize. No signs. No turn-offs. Just blacktop stretching endlessly under the moon. For a moment, I thought about pulling over, checking the GPS, figuring out if I'd taken a wrong turn. But something in my chest told me not to stop, so I kept driving. The next day, I came in early. Sleep hadn't helped. When I sat down at my desk, there was a note waiting for me from the night shift supervisor. It said, "Another report from the same area. Officer found more tire marks. You might want to listen to this." I plugged in a recording from the cruiser cam. Static again. Always static. Then, the officer's voice calm routine. Unit 12 on scene. No vehicle in sight. Copy. He got out of the car. I could hear gravel under his boots. He walked for a few seconds, breathing slow, muttering to himself. Then his tone changed. Confused. "Hold on. These marks, they're fresh." He paused. The audio glitched slightly. A faint click, like interference. Then another voice. Faint, almost like an echo. It was the same man from the call. The same trembling tone. "Please, please help me." The officer shouted, "Who's there?" and started running. His footsteps pounded against the asphalt, but the more he ran, the quieter his voice became, like he was getting farther away. Then the sound just stopped. No end, no breath, just silence. I took off the headphones and stared at the timestamp. 2:04 a.m., the same minute the call came in the night before. I called the officer right away. He answered, groggy, confused. He swore he didn't remember saying anything like that. He said he didn't even hear another voice while he was out there. But when he checked his dash cam later, it was blank. The file was gone. The only proof was the audio I'd already downloaded, and the fact that he couldn't stop shaking while we talked. By the end of the week, the department listed the case as unresolved. They stopped sending units to that stretch of highway, unless they had to. They said it was nothing, maybe pranksters, maybe a trick of the radio waves. But I kept thinking about that call, that whisper, that road that went nowhere. I couldn't let it go, so I went back out there. I told myself it was just to see it for myself, to get closure. But the truth is, I want to know if it was real. If he was real, I drove the same way the trace had shown. Long, empty highway. The trees thick on both sides. No lights, no signs. My phone lost signal after 10 minutes. I almost turned back, but then I saw them. Faint black streaks across the road. Tire marks. They curved sharply toward the ditch, then stopped. I pulled over, got out. The night air was heavy. Still, even the crickets were silent. When I looked closer, I saw it, a small patch of dirt disturbed near the shoulder, and half buried in the gravel. A phone, cracked, same model, same case. And when I picked it up, the screen flickered to life for just a second. It showed a single notification. One new voicemail, unknown number. I pressed play. There was static again. Always static. Then a voice, faint, shaky, distant. "Please, please help me." It was him. The same man. Same tone. But then another voice, quieter, behind his, almost overlapping. It was my own. "Stop." I dropped the phone. It landed face down, the screen shattering completely. And for a moment, I swore I heard footsteps behind me. Slow. Heavy. I turned, but the road was empty. No wind. No sound. Just dark trees and the faint smell of something metallic in the air. I got back in the car and drove away. fast as I could. But when I glanced at my dashboard clock, my heart froze. It said 2:04 a.m., the same minute, the same second, and the radio, which I hadn't touched, began to hiss. Through the static, a faint whisper bled through the speakers. You hear it too. I still remember the first time I heard his voice again. It was a quiet night, the kind that feels heavy with silence. The clock above my desk showed 2:37 a.m., and all I could hear was a low hum of the dispatch center. Computer fans, soft murmurs from other operators, the occasional cough. Then the line blinked. Unknown number. I answered automatically, voice steady from years of habit. 911, what's your emergency? At first, there was just breathing. Slow, calm. Then a voice, low, even and strangely familiar. You shouldn't be alone out there, he said. I froze. My eyes went to the screen. The number, it was the same one from 2 nights ago. The man who'd called from the highway. The one who said someone was chasing him. But that phone was found abandoned. The police had it logged in evidence. It shouldn't have been active. For a second, I couldn't speak. Then I forced the words out. Who is this? He didn't answer. Just continued. You're about to get another call. Don't answer it. My heart started pounding. Before I could respond, the line cut out. Static, then silence. I stared at the blank screen. My palms were slick. Seconds later, another line lit up. Different number. Different ID. I hesitated, remembering what the voice said. But duty won over fear, and I answered. A woman's voice, trembling, gasping. Please, someone's outside my car. I can't. Then a deep crackle. The call ended. I just sat there, staring, the ringing still echoing in my ears. I filed the call like I always do, date, time, description, but something about it itched at me. That calm voice, the warning, and the number. How could it even call in the first place? I checked the log. It showed a disconnected device. No signal trace. No network path. Just nothing, like the call came from nowhere. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed past my shift, pretending to organize reports. But really, I kept waiting for the line to blink again. And at 3:14 a.m., it did. Same number. Same impossible number. 911, what's your emergency? I asked, though my voice sounded small. I told you not to answer, he said again. I could almost hear a faint smile in his tone. Now it started. I swallowed hard. What started? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, the woman in the car, don't send anyone. She's not there anymore. I felt my stomach twist. What are you talking about? Who is this? I told you before, he said softly. I'm the one on the road. Something in his voice, slow, deliberate, made the hair on my arm stand straight. Sir, if this is some kind of prank. You think I'm alive? He interrupted, almost amused. That's not how this works. And before I could react, I heard it, a faint echo behind his words. Wind, a low rumble, the hum of tires rolling over asphalt, like he was still out there, driving. But he couldn't be. He died or disappeared, or whatever happened that night. The static deepened, swallowing the sound of his breathing. And just before the call cut, he whispered something I'll never forget. Check the logs, dispatcher. You'll see me coming. I didn't sleep after that. I just stared at my monitor, refreshing the call history, watching the minutes crawl by. Then, around 3:42 a.m., a new log appeared on the screen. No number, no source. Just a blank entry with a timestamp and a note. Incoming call. But there was no ringing. The screen flickered, like the system was glitching, and I could swear for a second the date changed. It said March 12th, not June 3rd. March 12th was the night the first man called. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was overtired, but when I blinked again, the date was back to normal. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that the system wasn't just logging calls anymore. It was replaying them. I went back to the old recordings. The man's voice, the same tone, the same words. But something was off. In the background of the first call, when he said someone was chasing him, I heard something I hadn't noticed before. A second voice, a whisper, repeating his words right after he said them, almost like an echo. I turned up the volume, isolating the audio. It wasn't an echo. It was answering him. Every time he spoke, the second voice would follow. Soft, broken, out of sync. He'd say, "He's getting closer," and it would repeat, "Closer." He'd say, "I can see headlights," and it would whisper, "Behind you." My stomach dropped, and then I heard something else. Right before the end of that call, a sound that made my skin crawl. A seatbelt clicked, then a car door opening, then nothing. By the next shift, I convinced myself I was just overthinking. Too little sleep, too much coffee. But I couldn't stop hearing that voice in my head. "You'll see me coming." I told myself I wouldn't pick up if the number appeared again. And for hours, nothing happened. Just routine calls. False alarms, minor accidents, domestic disturbances. Normal stuff. Until 2:59 a.m. The line blinked. Same number. This time, I didn't answer. I just watched it ring. 5 times. 6. 7. Then it stopped. I exhaled. Relief washed over me. Maybe that was it. Maybe ignoring it would end whatever this was. But then, every single monitor in front of me flashed white. Lines started opening. 1, 2, 10. Every screen blinking like a strobe. All of them labeled unknown. And all of them with the same call. The same voice, overlapping, echoing through the speakers. "You'll see me coming. You'll see me coming. You'll see me coming." The other dispatchers couldn't hear it. I asked them later. They said nothing happened, but I swear I heard it clear as day, layered like 1,000 recordings. When it stopped, every screen went dark for about 3 seconds. And when the system rebooted, there was a new log. Incoming call, timestamp 3 a.m., tagged audio pending. The note field just said, "He arrived." I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? I tried deleting the entry, but it wouldn't go away. It just sat there at the bottom of the list, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Later that morning, after my shift, I drove out to the stretch of highway where the first call came from. Just asphalt, dirt, and the wind pushing through tall grass. But I stopped where the police had marked the tire tracks, the place they said he vanished. And I noticed something. In the dirt, just beside the faded tracks, there were fresh ones, like a car had been there last night. Only, they started in the middle of the road. No entry path, no exit, just there, like something appeared, stood still, and then vanished again. I got back in my car, hands shaking, and tried to convince myself it was nothing. But as I drove away, I looked in the rear-view mirror. There was a figure standing where the tracks ended, tall, still, watching. And then the radio in my car flickered on. A voice came through, calm and even. "You shouldn't be alone out there." The same voice, the same words, the same quiet dread. Only this time, I couldn't hang up because there was no line to end. That was 3 nights ago. And now, every time I sit at the console, the phone line hums softly even when no call is coming in. Sometimes I think I hear it breathing. Sometimes I think I hear the road. But tonight, it's different. The hum is gone. The silence feels thicker. And there's only one thing on my screen, an open call window already active. No ringing, no input, just a voice calm and patient, saying, "I told you you'd see me coming." I've taken a lot of strange calls in my years as a 911 dispatcher. Suicides, domestic fights, accidents that went from bad to worse. But the one that still keeps me up at night, the one that made me start sleeping with the radio on, came in at 1:46 a.m. on a Wednesday. I remember because it was supposed to be my last week on the night shift. I was exhausted, running on cheap coffee and a stale energy bar. The hum of the fluorescent lights above me felt louder than it should have. Everything in that room felt too quiet. Then the line blinked. Unknown number. No caller ID. I pressed a button and said my usual. 911, what's your emergency? At first, nothing. Just muffled static, like wind through a car window. Then I heard breathing. Low, heavy, slow. "Sir, can you hear me?" I asked. "Yeah," he said finally, his voice slurred. "Yeah, I can hear you." He sounded drunk. But not just drunk, defeated. Like someone who'd been crying for a long time and finally ran out of tears. "What's your name, sir?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Doesn't matter. I just need to tell someone. I can't keep it quiet anymore." I leaned forward, pen ready. "Tell me what, sir?" There was a pause. Then, "I killed them." My chest tightened. "Killed who?" He laughed softly. Wet, bitter laughter that broke into a sob halfway through. "All of them," he said. "All three. I buried them where no one would ever find them." For a second, I thought it was a prank. But the way he said it, the trembling breath, the half-sob at the end, felt too real. I kept my voice calm. "Sir, where are you calling from?" "Home," he said. "I'm at home. Can you give me your address?" He hesitated again. I could hear him shifting the phone, maybe rubbing his face. Then he whispered, "It's too late for that. She's already here." My stomach dropped. "She? Who's there with you?" He didn't answer. Instead, the line filled with this faint sound, a soft creak, like someone stepping on an old wooden floor. "Sir," I asked again, "is someone else in the house with you?" He breathed hard, like he was trying to listen and talk at the same time. Then, barely audible, he said, "She's in the hallway. I locked the door, but she keeps whispering my name." "Who is she, sir? Do you know her?" His voice cracked. I thought she was gone. For a few seconds, the only thing I heard was static and that uneven breathing. Then there was a knock. Loud. "Hello." He flinched. I could hear it through the receiver. "Oh, God," he whispered. "She knows I called you." "Stay on the line," I said. "I'm sending officers right now. Just stay on the phone with me, okay?" But he wasn't listening anymore. He started muttering to himself. I caught fragments between his shaky breaths. "She said she forgave me. She said she wouldn't come back." I didn't mean to do it. I typed fast, alerting the nearest patrol unit. My hands were shaking. I'd handled confessions before, but never one like this. Never with someone else apparently in the room. The knock came again, harder this time. Then the creak of the door handle. "Sir, listen to me," I said. "Is there a window you can exit through?" He was crying now. I could hear him moving, the phone rustling. "She's at the door," he said. "I can see her shadow under it." "Who is she?" I asked again. He didn't answer. Then I heard a whisper, faint, right against the receiver. Not his voice. A woman's. "You shouldn't have told." The hair on my arm stood up. I froze, barely breathing. "Sir," I said. "Sir, who said that?" But the line had gone quiet. Then came a thud, something heavy hitting the floor, and then dragging, long, slow dragging sounds. I felt my throat close. "Sir, stay with me," I shouted. No response. Just that awful noise, like something being pulled across wood. Then a whisper again, closer this time, right in my ear, as if the speaker was leaning over my shoulder. "He's sorry now." I pulled off my headset, so fast it hit the desk. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. When I put it back on, the line was dead. The officers arrived 12 minutes later. They said the address led them to a small house on the edge of town, near the train tracks. Front door wide open. Lights off. No one inside. They found a half-empty bottle of whiskey, a phone on the kitchen table, and muddy footprints across the floor. But no sign of the caller. They also found 3 old newspaper clippings on the wall, all yellowed and taped up. Each one was about missing persons. 3 women, all gone within months of each other. Each of their photos had been circled in red marker. When I heard that, my hands started shaking again, because while the officers were talking, my console started beeping. The same line, same number. I didn't answer, but the monitor flickered for a second, and text appeared in the call log where there shouldn't have been any. "She's still here." The next day, I told myself it was just some glitch. Maybe someone hacked the system. Maybe it was all coincidence. But then I listened to the call recording. It started normally, my voice a confession. Then, around the time he said, "She's in the hallway," the background changed. There was another voice layer behind his, a woman's. But when I slowed it down, I realized something. She wasn't whispering to him. She was whispering with him. Every word he said, she repeated, not echoing, synchronized. like she already knew what he was going to say. And right before the call ended, when I heard that final whisper, I noticed one more thing. There was a sound behind her words. Not static, not distortion. It was breathing, slow, deep, but not through a phone speaker. It sounded close, too close, like someone was standing right behind the microphone. I didn't tell anyone about that part. I couldn't. Who would believe me? But that night, during my next shift, something happened that made me realize the call wasn't over. At 1:46 a.m., the same time confession came in. The same line blinked again. The screen said, "Incoming call unknown." My mouth went dry. I answered, slowly, 911, what's your emergency? Static, then a faint exhale, and a voice. Not his, hers. Did you miss me? I dropped the headset. It clattered against the desk. When I picked it back up, the line was dead. But the timestamp on my screen stayed there, blinking. Same number, same minute, just one word under the notes column. Connected, and below that, a message that wasn't typed by me or anyone else. He told you, now you listen. I thought that was the end. But ever since that night, the calls haven't stopped. Sometimes they come when I'm not even at work. My personal phone rings once, from a number that doesn't exist. And when I answer, there's no voice. Just that soft creaking sound, like footsteps on an old floor. Sometimes, if I listen long enough, I can hear the faintest whisper underneath it. She's in the hallway. And when I hang up, the reflection in my screen, for a split second, looks like someone standing behind me. It's strange how your own voice can sound like a stranger's when you're scared. That's how I felt the next night, listening to myself say the same words I'd said 1,000 times before. 911, what's your emergency? Routine, calm, controlled. But deep down, something in me already knew who it would be. It was 1:46 a.m. again. The same line, the same faint static on the other end. At first, I thought maybe the system had glitched and replayed a recording. But then I heard him, that same voice from the confession. The drunk man. Only this time, he didn't sound drunk. Hey there, he said quietly, almost casual. You remember me, don't you? Every muscle in my body went tight. Sir, this is a 911 line. If this isn't an emergency. Emergency? He repeated with a soft laugh. Oh, there's an emergency, sweetheart. Just not the kind you can fix. His tone made my stomach twist. Calm, measured, like someone enjoying a private joke. What's your name? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He ignored the question. I could hear him moving around. Something creaked in the background. Floorboards again. Funny thing, he said, you never asked me where I lived last time. You just sent the cops to an empty house. They didn't find me. I froze. How do you know that? Because I was watching, he said, from across the street. My throat went dry. I muted my mic for a second, flagged the supervisor's screen, and typed possible harassment/trace requested. When I unmuted, he was still talking. I think we got cut off before, he said, almost apologetic. She doesn't like when I talk too long. I repeated. He chuckled. You heard her, didn't you? The whisper. Every part of me wanted to hang up, but I couldn't. Procedure said I had to stay on the line until the call ended naturally or the threat was verified. And something told me hanging up wouldn't make him go away. Sir, can you tell me your location? I asked again. He exhaled sharply through his nose. You already know. Area code's the same as yours, right? That should narrow it down. That stopped me. Most calls came from the surrounding county, not my direct area. My own number's area code was unique to a small part town. How did you know that? I asked quietly. You sound nervous, he said, almost smiling. You should be. You don't hide your voice very well. He paused, then said something that made my blood go cold. I like your apartment. Cozy little place. Second floor, right? The one with the half-dead plant in the window. I froze completely. My eyes darted toward the dark window across the dispatch center. I couldn't see outside. It was pitch black beyond the glass. Sir, I don't know who you think I am. Don't lie, he said softly. You always leave the lamp on. The yellow one by the couch. You say it makes the room feel less empty. My pulse was pounding in my ears. I hadn't told anyone that. Not even co-workers I actually liked. I reached under the desk and pressed the silent alarm key. It flagged security to my location. He sighed, almost disappointed. "You shouldn't do that," he said. "She doesn't like surprises." And then, faintly, I heard it again. That same whispering sound from before. Female, breathy, just beneath his voice. Only this time, she was whispering my name. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. "Sir," I said, forcing my voice steady, "I need you to tell me where you are right now." He laughed, low and quiet, closer than you think. I looked up at the security feed monitor. The hallway outside dispatch was empty. The only movement was the red blink of the cameras themselves. "You're not funny," I said, trying to sound firm. "I'm not trying to be," he replied. "I just thought it'd be nice to talk face to face one day." The whispering grew louder, and it sounded almost like breathing against glass. And then, faintly, I heard him say, "She likes you." My hands trembled as I typed trace call. Emergency priority 1. The system began triangulating his signal. I watched the progress bar crawl across the screen, every second feeling like an hour. Then it stopped. Location: unavailable. Call source within local exchange. That meant one thing. He was calling from the same network range as my building, the same neighborhood. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Sir, if you're trying to threaten me..." "Oh no," he said softly. "Not threaten. I just wanted you to understand. She's not after me anymore." The whisper cut through the line again, longer this time, drawn out. "Not after me." He whispered along with her, both voices merging until I couldn't tell them apart. "She wants you now." I slammed the mute key, jumped up, and shouted across the floor for my supervisor. He came running, confusion on his face. I pointed to my screen. By the time he reached me, the line had gone dead, but the timestamp kept flashing. 1:46 a.m. again. I stared at it, waiting for the system to reset, but it didn't. Instead, a message appeared on my monitor. "Don't leave yet." My supervisor frowned. "What is that?" Before I could answer, the lights in the dispatch room flickered. Just once, but it was enough to make my stomach twist again. We ran a full system check. No evidence of tampering, no traceable source. The IT tech said it was probably a routing ghost, some leftover code from a past call that got stuck in the network buffer. But I knew better. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at a co-worker's apartment, pretending it was because of overtime exhaustion. But really, I couldn't stand the thought of going back to my own place, because everything he said was true. The lamp, the dying plant, the second floor window. When I finally did go home the next morning, the first thing I noticed was that my window was unlocked. I never left it unlocked, and there was something new sitting on the windowsill. A single red marker, the same kind police said they found at that empty house. I threw it out, locked the window, and spent the next night watching the shadows move across my walls. I told myself it was all in my head, that maybe he just guessed or looked up my info somehow. But 2 nights later, at exactly 1:46 a.m., my phone rang again. Not the work line, my personal phone. Same area code, same number of digits. When I answered, there was no greeting, just breathing. Then that soft voice again, the woman's whispering, "Your lamp is still on." The line cut out. I stared at my phone screen until it dimmed, and when it went black, my reflection stared back at me, except behind my shoulder, in the faint light from the lamp, was the outline of someone standing by the window. I remember that night more vividly than anything else. It was one of those shifts where time felt stretched, slow, heavy, like the hours were trying to drag you down. The hum of the fluorescent lights above me never stopped, and the low chatter of other dispatchers faded into background noise. I thought maybe the night was going to end quietly, but that was before the call. The last one, it came through around 3:12 a.m. Same number, same voice, same cold tone that made my skin crawl. At first, I didn't even want to answer. My hand hovered over the button, Like some part of me already knew that picking up would mean something bad. But I did it anyway. That's the job. You answer. 911, what's your emergency? A pause. Then static. Not the normal kind, though. Not the fuzzy, white noise that comes from weak reception. This one felt alive, like breathing through a broken radio. There was a rhythm to it, like something moving close to the phone. I almost hung up, but then I heard it. That voice. Low, calm, familiar. He said, "You left the light on again." I froze, my hand locked around the receiver. "What?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Who is this?" He didn't answer that. Instead, I heard the faint sound of something scraping, slow and deliberate, like fingernails dragging across a hard surface. "You shouldn't leave the light on in your living room," he said. Then quieter, "It makes you too easy to see." I felt my stomach twist. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it, but it sounded like he was smiling when he said that. I told him, try and keep my voice steady. "Sir, this line is for emergencies only. If you're playing games, He interrupted me. "You sound different when you're scared." Something about the way he said it made my blood run cold. He wasn't guessing. He knew I was scared. I muted my mic for a second and turned to my coworker, Jess, who was finishing up her shift. "Can you trace this?" I whispered. She frowned but nodded, typing quickly. I unmuted. "Sir, where are you calling from?" A soft chuckle came through. "You already know. You've been looking at it all night." Jess turned to me. "Same number," she said, still unregistered, still bouncing from tower to tower. I leaned closer to her screen. "Try again. Run it manually." She started typing faster, but I couldn't focus on the sound of her keys anymore, because the man on the phone whispered something I'll never forget. "I'm outside." My whole body tensed. I didn't even breathe. For a second, I thought he was bluffing, trying to get a reaction. But then I remembered something he said in his first call about the reflection on the window, about how it didn't match what he saw. I turned my head toward the glass partition beside my desk. Beyond it, the parking lot was dark, empty. Only my own reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed, pale. "You're lying," I said, but my voice didn't sound convincing. The static deepened, louder now, like wind roaring through a tunnel. Then came a click, like someone switching a mic from speaker to earpiece. "You lock your door every night," he said softly, "except tonight." My throat went dry. I pushed back from my chair, nearly tripping over the cord. "Jess," I whispered, "call security, now." She didn't hesitate, but while she reached for her headset, I heard one last thing, faint but unmistakable through the line, a sound of wood creaking, a door opening, then the call cut, complete silence, the moment it disconnected. I felt something shift in the air around me, that heavy stillness, the kind that comes before a storm or after a scream. My ears rang. I stared at the phone, waiting for it to light up again. But it didn't. Jess was talking to security, her voice trembling slightly. She got another call. The guys nearby. I stood there, listening to every little sound. The hum of the computer, the faint tapping of the rain outside, and underneath all of it, something else. A soft scraping, like nails on metal. Security arrived a few minutes later. 2 guards, Harris and Miguel. They swept through the building, checked the exits, the hallway, the staff lot. Nothing. They tried to calm me down, saying it was probably someone spoofing our local line, some prankster with too much time. But when we checked the system logs, I noticed something. The last call, the one that cut off, wasn't just incoming. It was routed through our own dispatch line. Internal, meaning it came from inside the building. That's when I started to shake. Jess said, "It's a glitch, it has to be," but the timestamp was right there, 3:17 a.m. And beside it, the extension ID, the one assigned to my station. I didn't say a word. I just turned back to my desk and stared at my phone. It was still on, the red, in use. Light was blinking faintly, like it was holding a call that no one could hear. I picked it up, slowly. Nothing, just static. I almost hung up again, but something made me stop. In between the static, faint, almost buried, I heard something else. A breath, and then a small, broken sob. It sounded like a woman. It sounded like me. I dropped the phone so hard it cracked against the desk. Just jumped and ran over, asking what happened, but I couldn't explain, because even after I dropped it, the static kept going, louder now, almost angry, like it didn't want to be ignored. I yanked the wire from the wall. The noise stopped instantly. The silence after that was worse than anything else. It filled the room like a thick fog. We left early that night. Security walked me in my car, and I tried to convince myself it was over, just a freak technical thing. But when I got home, around 3:45, I saw something that made my heart stop. My front door was unlocked. I always lock it. Always. The key was still in my hand, shaking. I told myself maybe I forgot the morning rush. Maybe I was too tired. But the air inside my apartment felt wrong. Cold, stale, like someone had been there and just left. I checked every room, even under the bed, even the closet. Nothing. But then I noticed a window near my desk, the one that faced the alley. There were marks on the glass. Thin, uneven scratches running from one corner to the other, like someone had dragged their nails down, trying to see through. And in the faint condensation on the inside, there was a smudge. A print, a single handprint, pressed from inside. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on my couch, every light on, phone unplugged, staring at that window. The scratches looked deeper in the morning light, more defined. When I went back to work the next day, I told the supervisor everything. He listened, kind of half believing, and said IT would check the logs again. But later, when I passed the tech office, I overheard them talking. There were no logs, no record of the call, not even the internal one, just a gap in the system. 3 minutes of erased data. It's been 2 weeks since then, and I still haven't gotten another call. But some nights when I'm lying awake, I hear again that faint, rhythmic static, not from phone this time, from somewhere inside the walls. And when I get close to the window, I swear I can see something in the glass, a shadow that shouldn't be there, standing just behind me.